Chapter 655. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet. Mu Qingchen couldn't refute this reason. It wasn't harmful to cause a big bump, but it was very insulting. Mu Qingchen asked, "Since you know he is General Nangong, how dare you throw stones at him?" Gu Jiao said, "Is a general that great?" "You?" Mu Qingchen sighed. "Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers." When the military power of the Shenyuan family was divided into four, the Nangong family occupied the majority. Although the Nangong family was not one of the top 10 families in Chengdu, it was only because of its foundation. In terms of military power, the Nangong family was already far ahead. Mu Qingchen thought of something and asked again, "By the way, how did you know he is General Nangong?" Gu Jiao said, "I didn't know at first, but I heard him talking to someone. He said that his son fell off the horse and was injured during the shooting competition, so I guessed it." Mu Qingchen no longer doubted anything. Gu Jiao felt it was a pity that she didn't bring any weapons or hidden weapons to the competition. If she had the black fire pearl, she would have blown Nangong Li into a pig's head. Mu Qingchen turned his head and saw Gu Jiao frowning as if she didn't perform well. He suddenly didn't know what to say. The coachman who was sent away by Mu Qingchen came back with a stick of candied haws in his hand. "Young master, there are no delicious snacks nearby, so I only bought candied haws." The coachman handed the stick to Mu Qingchen. Mu Qingchen didn't really want to eat candied haws. In his opinion, candied haws were something that only girls and children liked to eat. He was about to let the coachman take it away when he suddenly thought of something and handed the stick of candied haws to Gu Jiao. "Here." "Oh, thank you." Gu Jiao didn't refuse. On the way back to the inn, Gu Jiao ate the stick of candied haws without hesitation. In case Nangong Li counterattacked, she didn't take off her woman's clothes, but only took off her veil. Mu Qingchen looked out of the window on the other side, occasionally glancing back at her. The way she chewed on candied haws was somewhat similar to Su Shui's. Mu Qingchen frowned. What was he thinking? Xiao Lulang was a man. Gu Jiao and Mu Qingchen both escaped through the window. At that time, the peddlers downstairs had not arrived yet. Now, there was a long queue, so they had to go back to the inn through the main entrance. Wu Fuzi's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets when he saw the two people coming over from the staircase. "When did you two go out? I've been waiting here for a long time." Wu Fuzi exploded. "What are you doing?" Gu Jiao said, "Yeah, I just walked around." Wu Fuzi clenched his fists and glared at Mu Qingchen. "What about you?" Mu Qingchen glanced at Gu Jiao and said, "I just accompanied him for a walk." Wu Fuzi was so angry that he fell backwards. No wonder he was a freshman who got 2 demerits in 10 days. He ran around as soon as he arrived and led an excellent student like Mu Qingchen astray. The competition was imminent, so it was impossible to punish him. Wu Fuzi secretly remembered this. "If you don't win tomorrow, I'll double the punishment when we return to the academy." The two went back to their respective rooms. Mu Qingchen wanted to rest, but he could not fall asleep when he thought of what happened just now. He had a feeling that Xiao Lulang was hiding something from him. It was a strange feeling, as if he was caught in a fog. The truth was behind the fog, but he could not get rid of it. Mu Qingchen decided to ask his classmate again. Wu Fuzi was guarding the door. Wu Fuzi would not stop him from visiting openly. However, for some reason, Mu Qingchen chose to sneak in through the window. He could not explain why. He hooked the window frame with one hand and jumped onto the roof. He walked past Mu Chuan's room and jumped into Gu Jiao's room through the window. However, Gu Jiao was nowhere to be seen. Yes, Gu Jiao had gone out again. It was impossible for her to stay in her room, not in this lifetime. However, this time, Gu Jiao was more careful than the first time. Even Mu Qingchen, who was highly vigilant, was not alarmed. Mu Qingchen furrowed his brows. Why did he suddenly have a feeling of unhappiness? Gu Jiao used the same method. She climbed onto the roof from the window and jumped into the alley. She returned to the pawnshop. Nangong Li's guards had already left. The pawnshop was deserted as usual. Only a few pedestrians passed by occasionally, but not many people went in to inquire. However, Gu Jiao's attention was not on the pawnshop, but on the embroidery building opposite. The carriage was gone. Gu Jiao tilted her head slightly and continued to walk towards the other side. She took off the Chenxiong Academy uniform and put on a nocturnal suit that was easy to hide. Just as she arrived at the door of the embroidery building, a carriage suddenly drove over and stopped beside her. The person in the carriage did not speak, but a corner of the curtain was blown up by the night wind. A familiar aura drifted over faintly. Gu Jiao jumped into the carriage almost without thinking. There was an adult and a child in the carriage. There was no light. The child was so sleepy that he fell asleep in someone's arms. However, the adult was in high spirits, without a trace of tiredness. Gu Jiao sat down beside him. "Why haven't you left yet?" Xiao Heng faintly curled his lips. "What about you? Why are you back?" "Waiting for you. Looking for you." One did not know that she would come back, the other did not know that he had not left. However, they still came here together. "Nangong Li didn't see you, right?" Gu Jiao asked. "No." When Gu Jiao threw a stone at Nangong Li, Xiao Heng felt that something was wrong. He did not look back. He held little Jing Kong's hand and walked quickly into the shop. In fact, he did not see Gu Jiao. He only saw Nangong Li. However, he knew that except for Gu Jiao, no one would divert Nangong Li's attention. "Are you hurt?" Xiao Heng asked. "No." Gu Jiao said, "They didn't catch me." Xiao Heng looked at Gu Jiao up and down with the help of the thin moonlight and the candlelight on the street. He opened her palm and slid his fingertips gently to see if there were any hidden wounds. After confirming that there were no wounds, he said, Then, he did not withdraw his hand. He just held Gu Jiao's small hand and rubbed her palm with his fingertips to comfort her. A girl's hand was always soft, small and slender. He could completely cover it with his big palm. Gu Jiao looked at the hand he was holding and felt the intimacy he inadvertently revealed. She knew what had happened to her. This was a pair of hands stained with blood. They had dug through mountains of corpses and bones and taken people's heads. His hand was clean. It was so clean that Gu Jiao did not even want to let a speck of dust touch it. At this moment, this clean hand clasped hers tightly, as if he wanted to pull her out of the sea of corpses and blood. "Jiao Jiao." Little Jing Kong's sleep-talking broke the temporary silence in the carriage. Gu Jiao withdrew her hand from Xiao Heng's grasp and touched little Jing Kong's back. She found that he was sweating. She took out a handkerchief to wipe his sweat and said to Xiao Heng, "2 things." Xiao Heng looked at her retracted hand and frowned imperceptibly. Gu Jiao said, "The people who want to kill you are the royal family of the Yan dynasty." "The royal family of the Yan dynasty?" Xiao Heng looked thoughtful. "Also," Gu Jiao continued, "Chong Jing is the young master of the Dark Knight sect." "She is the young master of the Dark Knight sect." This news was shocking. Xiao Heng always thought that Chong Jing was just an ordinary secret guard. "What is the Dark Knight sect?" Gu Jiao wanted to ask for a long time. "It's an assassin organization that doesn't belong to any country." Xiao Heng didn't know much about it. He paid more attention to the affairs of the imperial court and only heard about it occasionally in Zhonghu. Soon, the carriage stopped at the door of the inn where Gu Jiao and the others lived. In fact, Gu Jiao did not say where she lived after getting on the carriage. However, if a person really wanted to know, he or she could find out about Chenxiong Academy by any means possible. Therefore, there was no such thing as being powerless in this world. It was just a matter of whether you put your heart into it or not. In the past, it was Gu Jiao who sent Xiao Heng. When they were in the countryside, she walked dozens of miles to send him to the town to study. After they came to the capital, she always sent him to the Imperial College and Hanlin Academy. Gu Jiao was not used to being suddenly sent back by Xiao Heng. She pulled her little ears and said, "Then, I'm leaving. Xiao Hang gently tugged at her sleeve and said, "You're leaving just like that?" Gu Jiao, who could kill a cow with a hammer, was pulled by someone's slender fingers. She looked over in confusion and said, Xiao Heng raised his head. The moonlight fell on his handsome jade-like face. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. "Aren't there two things? What's the other thing?" Gu Jiao said seriously, "The mastermind behind this is the great Yen royal family. Chong Jing is the young master of the Dark Knight sect. These are two things." Xiao Heng looked at her with a faint smile and said, "These are all information. Telling them information can only be considered one thing." Could he be so serious about words? Xiao Heng's fingertips slid down her sleeve and grabbed her slightly cold fingers. He gently hooked them and stood up. The carriage was not very high, so he could only bend down. He held Gu Jiao's hand with one hand and supported himself with the other by Gu Jiao's side. He pressed down on Gu Jiao. His unique aura suddenly enveloped Gu Jiao. A ray of moonlight shone through the gap in the curtains and shone on his eyes. She used to think that Jing Kong was an eyelash demon. Now that she looked at it carefully, she realized that Xiao Hang was one too. Gu Jiao was stunned again. Xiao Hang was angry and amused at the same time. He had mustered up so much courage to do such a shameless thing, but she only cared about admiring his face. Gu Jiao sat in the carriage and stared at him without blinking. Xiao Hang raised the hand that was playing with her fingertips and gently pinched her chin. He asked in a hoarse voice, "Did you remember the other thing?" After his voice had completely changed, Xiao Heng's voice became more and more pleasant. It was young, clean, and had the attractive charm of a mature man. Gu Jiao's little soul was hooked away. Xiao Heng laughed softly and lowered his body. "Gu Jiao, remember, this is only the second thing." With that, he tilted his head slightly and kissed her lips in the carriage. The next day, the people from Tianqiong Academy rode their horses to Lingbo Academy after breakfast at the inn. The archery field was already surrounded by people who had come to watch the competition. The seats in the stands were basically all reserved. What was different was that Gu Jiao actually found a small area of blue and white among the colorful uniforms. Were the students from Tianqiong Academy coming to watch the competition? There weren't many people, only a dozen or so. They seemed especially weak among the hundreds of people in the academy. Wu Fuzi was very excited. "It's our academy's students. Our academy's students are also here." After so many matches, this was the first time someone from his own team was watching. Wu Fuzi was so happy that tears almost came out of his eyes. Zhong Ding and Zhou Tong waved at them. Gu Jiao and Mu Qingchen had already urged their horses to go to the pavilion. Mu Chuan waved at them enthusiastically. Zhao Wei had a stomachache last time and didn't go on stage. This time he was extra careful. His archery skills were better than Mu Chuan's. If he went on stage, Mu Chuan could only be a substitute. Fortunately, Mu Chuan didn't have any objections. After drawing lots, Wu Fuzi said, "We're in the third round again." Mu Chuan hurriedly said, "The third round is good. I didn't wake up in the first round, and the following rounds were too hot." Wu Fuzi agreed. "Yes, the third round is the best round in the morning. We were lucky twice in a row." Only Gu Jiao frowned. She seemed to be dissatisfied. "What's wrong?" Mu Qingchen asked. "Nothing." Before Xiao Hang left last night, he told her that he was going to investigate something this morning. Mu Qingchen glanced at Gu Jiao and his eyes fell on her neck. "Don't you turn off the mosquito net when you sleep?" "Yes." Gu Jiao pulled her collar without changing her expression. Mu Chuan continued to ask Wu Fuzi, "Which academy will we be fighting against?" Wu Fuzi said, "Pingyang Academy." The competition lasted for 2 days, and Pingyang Academy was on the second day. They didn't see Pingyang Academy's performance, but they were able to make it to the second round. Gu Jiao saw that Mu Qingchen pursed his thin lips and didn't say a word. She asked, "What's wrong? Is this academy difficult to fight against?" Mu Qingchen thought for a moment and said, Pingyang Academy is one of the few academies that is good at both civil and martial arts. Their fencing teacher used to be the best fencer in the royal family. Su Ping was taught by him. After he was injured, he couldn't fencer anymore, so he went to the academy to become a teacher. As he spoke, he paused for a moment before adding, "Their overall level is very high, and their coordination is excellent." No fencer in Pingyang Academy could be as good as Su Ping, but the basic strength of a team was often determined by the weakest one, not the strongest one. Su Ping was good, but Nangong Lin and the other two couldn't keep up with his pace. He couldn't lead the three of them by himself. Mu Chuan said bitterly, "Fourth brother, I've never heard you praise anyone, but you just praised them twice. Do you mean we're going to lose?" Yuan Shao said, "Don't belittle yourself before you even fight." Zhao Wei said, "I agree." Mu Chuan muttered, "Is this a matter of agreement or not?" "It's a matter of losing miserably." Gu Jiao asked casually while wrapping the bandage around her wrist, "By the way, what's the reward for winning the fencer competition?" "You don't know?" Mu Qingchen looked at her strangely. "I don't know." No one had told her. Mu Qingchen frowned and looked away. "I thought you were going for the reward. If you get third place, you can have a piece of inner city talisman. The second place will get 1,000 taels of gold." Gu Jiao's bandaged hand paused. Gu Chongqing fought desperately at the border, and the emperor of Zhao Kingdom only rewarded him with 1,000 taels of silver after he came back. Was the emperor of Yan Kingdom so generous? "What's the reward for the first place?" Gu Jiao asked. Mu Qingchen said with some reverence, "The first place will have the opportunity to enter the palace to meet the emperor." Gu Jiao entered the battle mode in a second. "How many matches do we have to play until the last round?" Mu Qingchen was stunned by her sudden fighting spirit. He said, "Including today, if we don't lose a single match, there will be 3 matches left." But who could guarantee that they could play until the last match? Fight. Gu Jiao grabbed the cue stick and walked out valiantly. Digression. Fever. Discomfort. Please forgive little June. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet can be found here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1077333908. HTML Genius memorized the website address www.zhbqg.com. Bikuj mobile reading website zhbqg.com. Chapter 656. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more exciting content. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that you can't find on the internet are available here. Tianqiong Academy had successfully defeated Qingyue Academy in the last round, which was quite impressive. They were looking forward to the duel between Tianqiong Academy and Pingyang Academy. They wondered what kind of tricks the freshmen would play this time. Mu Qingchen was the leader. Last time, Mu Chuan and Yuan Shao followed him, and Gu Jiao was his tail. Today, Mu Chuan was a substitute and replaced Zhao Wei. However, Zhao Wei and Yuan Shao both gave the second place to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao didn't think there was anything wrong with it. It didn't make any difference to her whether she was second or fourth. As soon as Mu Qingchen entered the arena, all the girls in the stands became excited. They were in ancient times, where etiquette was very strict. If they were in modern times, Gu Jiao would probably hear a lot of girls calling him hubby. Young Master Qingchen. Young Master Qingchen. There was really a bold girl who shouted at Mu Qingchen. Anyway, she was wearing a veil, so no one could recognize her. Her shout was like an opening, and the people around her also waved their handkerchiefs and shouted. Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. "You have so many fangirls." In fact, there were already enough fangirls last time. After winning the archery competition, Mu Qingchen's popularity soared again, and many girls who didn't belong to him came through the back door to watch him perform archery. Amidst the cheers of young Master Qingchen, Gu Jiao actually heard someone call out, "Young Master Xiao." Obviously, Mu Qingchen heard it too. When he was called young Master Qingchen, Mu Qingchen didn't even bat an eyelid. However, when Gu Jiao was called young Master Xiao, he couldn't help but turn his head to look in that direction. There was a sea of people, so how could he see who was calling? Wherever his gaze swept across, the young ladies all clutched their chests. They were about to faint. Young Master Qingchen was looking in their direction? Did he hear them calling him? He didn't look anywhere but at them. Is young Master Qingchen looking at me? I think he's looking at me. It was me. Mu Qingchen's action was just a subconscious one. When he realized it, he frowned slightly and quickly looked away. Gu Jiao, on the other hand, glanced at the crowd a few more times. Oh, where are her fangirls? It was gone after a single cry. Its combat power was too weak. Xiao Hang had something to do in the morning, so he didn't come, but the grandstand he used last time was still reserved for him. The 3 students of the Azure Water Women's Academy were sitting in their respective seats with smiles on their faces. The seat closest to the front was reserved for the number 1 beauty. Thanks to the blessing of the number 1 beauty, they could once again comfortably watch bowls in the shady pavilion. The people next door were still from the public house. Second Master Jing sat upright on the cushion while Second Furin sat beside him in a dignified and elegant manner. Second Madam smiled and poured a cup of fruit wine for Second Master Jing. She said gently, "Didn't my husband want to come and watch the bow? Why aren't you saying anything?" Second Master Jing was as still as a bell. "Don't you know why I'm not saying anything? I can't even watch the beauty," he muttered softly with hidden bitterness. "What did my husband say?" Second Madam didn't hear him clearly. Second Master Jing's eyelids drooped helplessly. "Nothing. I'm just worried about eldest brother." Second Madam turned her head to look at the Duke beside her. "With Miss Mu here, eldest brother will be fine." The Duke sat in a wheelchair with Mu Ruxian by his side. Originally, Second Madam didn't plan to bring the Duke to watch the bow competition. After all, he had just recovered from his cold and needed to rest. However, Mu Ruxian said that it would be good for the Duke's condition to move around. The Duke stared at the bow without blinking. Mu Ruxian wasn't sure if he was conscious, but she still smiled and asked, "Duke, do you like to watch the bow competition?" The Duke couldn't answer. Mu Ruxian continued, "I heard that Madame Jing is good at the bow competition." Madame Jing, Jing Yin's birth mother, was the eldest daughter of the Xian Yuan family. The children of the Xian Yuan family were all highly skilled in martial arts. Riding and shooting was nothing difficult for them. The Duke's face seemed to twitch slightly. When Mu Ruxian looked at the Duke again, he was gone. "Young miss, this is the spring water you wanted." The maid passed a porcelain bottle filled with spring water to Mu Ruxian in high spirits. It said that Ling Bo Academy has a natural spring water that is drawn down from the mountain using a water wheel. "Young miss, quickly taste it. Is it sweet?" Mu Ruxian glanced at her and took the porcelain bottle. "I know. I'll drink it later." The maid smiled and lowered her eyes before retreating to Mu Ruxian's side. Mr. Qing Chen is here." A female student from Tsonglan Academy couldn't help but exclaim excitedly. Mu Ruxian had seen Mu Qing Chen up close in the Duke's residence before, but she wasn't as excited as them. She inadvertently glanced at the Duke and noticed that he seemed to be very excited. His fingers, which were placed on the armrest, trembled slightly. His empty eyes seemed to have regained their spirit. This was the 3rd round of the competition. The Duke hadn't been like this in the previous 2 rounds. If it was in the past, she wouldn't have asked about anything other than the treatment. However, it was different now. Her position in the Duke's heart was getting higher and higher, and it might even be higher in the future. Naturally, she was more confident than before. She turned her head and looked at Second Master Jing and his wife on the other side. She asked, Second Master Jing, second madam, are Mr. Qing Chen and the Duke old friends? Of course they were old friends. Otherwise, Mu Qing Chen wouldn't have brought a doctor over to treat the Duke. The reason Mu Ru Xin asked this question was because she wanted to know more about the two of them. There wasn't anything that couldn't be said. Second Master Jing said, "When Een was young, my eldest brother brought her to live in the Snow Cloud Manor for a period of time. Mu Qing Chen happened to live in the manor next door. Mu Qing Chen's handwriting was taught by my eldest brother." "I see." Mu Ru Xin nodded. It was no wonder the Duke had such a reaction when he saw Mu Qing Chen. He probably saw Mu Qing Chen as his favorite student. Mu Ru Xin couldn't help but look at Mu Qing Chen again. Coincidentally, Gu Jiao rode her horse over from behind. Mu Ru Xin immediately saw her face. "Why is it him?" Mu Ru Xin looked at Second Master Jing in disbelief. "Second Master Jing, didn't you tell me that you beat him so badly that he couldn't get out of bed? You even compensated him with 500 taels. Look at him now. Does he look like he was injured before?" Second Master Jing instantly choked. F***CK, I forgot about this. Last time, Mu Ru Xion's arm was dislocated by Gu Jiao. Mu Ru Xion used the excuse of treating the Duke's illness to force him to capture that brat. Who would have thought that not only would he not be captured, he would also lose 500 taels. He lost face and naturally wouldn't admit it. He could only say that he originally wanted to capture him, but that brat wouldn't comply no matter what. He didn't control his strength and ended up crippling him. Second Madam also looked at Second Master Jing. "That's right. That's what you also told me." Second Master Jing coughed lightly and looked at Gu Jiao, who was practicing on the field. He said seriously, "I did beat him up." "Who told him to recover so quickly?" In order to divert attention, he stood up and went behind his eldest brother's wheelchair. "Eldest brother likes to watch Mu Qing Chen hit the bow, right? Come. Let's go and watch." After saying that, he decisively pushed his wheelchair to the side of the railing. After the players from Tianqiong Academy were in position, the players from Pingyang Academy entered the field from the other side of the track. All four of them were dressed in black and held golf clubs in their hands. Their eyes were piercingly cold as they rode on tall horses. The aura of the four people and four horses was too strong. It was as if a strong murderous aura had shrouded the entire field in an instant. Zhao Wei suddenly touched his arm. "What's wrong?" "Yuan Shao. Don't mention it." He also felt cold. Gu Jiao was still playing with her golf club. When she heard the sound of horse hooves coming from afar, she raised her head slightly. At this moment, the four students from Pingyang Academy had already arrived in front of them. She clearly felt that except for Mu Qing Chen's horse, her, Zhao Wei, and Yuan Zhao's horses all shivered and retreated a few steps. The game hadn't even started and the horses were already scared. Gu Jiao frowned. The leader of the students from Pingyang Academy glanced at them. His eyes lingered on Gu Jiao's face for a while, but finally, he looked at Mu Qing Chen and said with a confident smile, "I watched the game last time. Indeed, you have some tricks up your sleeves. However, I'm afraid you won't be so lucky this time." Mu Qing Chen said indifferently, "You forced the Han family to send out the Black Wind Cavalry. It's enough to show how much you fear Tianqiong Academy." Gu Jiao caught two key words: the Han family and the Black Wind Cavalry. The corner of the man's mouth twitched. He tightened the reins and turned his horse around. "Let's see who will win." "The Han family?" Gu Jiao turned to look at Mu Qing Chen. To be able to become one of the four great families of Xingdu, every disciple of the family is proficient in both the pen and the sword. Back then, Mu Qing Chen paused. There were some things that he didn't know whether he should say or not, but when he saw Gu Jiao's thirsty eyes, he sighed and said it. After the Shenyuan family's rebellion failed, the military power was divided into four families. The Nangong family had the most, followed by the Han family, the Wang family, and the Mu family. It's worth mentioning that the Shenyuan family's cavalry was assigned to the Han family, which is the Black Wind Cavalry. In order to ensure the strength and purity of the bloodline, the breeding of the Black Wind Cavalry is very strict. Of course, the training is stricter. Gu Jiao grunted and looked at his mount. She asked, "Why isn't your horse afraid?" Mu Qing Chen stroked his horse's head to comfort it. "It's not that my horse isn't afraid. It's just that I've stabilized it with my internal energy." Gu Jiao looked at Mu Qing Chen's horse and then looked at the 3 horses that were trembling. "So when we go on the field later," Mu Qing Chen took a deep breath and said, "let's leave it to fate." In this world, there was no horse that was more valiant and good at fighting than the Black Wind Cavalry. Just like how there would be pressure between experts, it was the same for horses. Wherever the Black Wind Cavalry appeared, tens of thousands of horses would retreat. On the spectators' stand, many people who had seen the Black Wind Cavalry before felt sorry for the Tianqiong Academy. "It's over, it's over. It's all over now." Second Master Jing looked at the small figure on the field whose aura was similar to his brother-in-law's and sighed helplessly. "Why is it over?" Mu Ruexian walked over and asked in confusion. She was from the Chen Kingdom and didn't understand the political affairs of the Yen Kingdom. Second Master Jing pointed at the mounts of the Pingyang Academy and said, "Do you see those horses? Those aren't ordinary horses. They are the Black Wind Cavalry." Hearing the Black Wind Cavalry, Mu Ruexian was shocked speechless. It was rumored that the Shenyuan Cavalry was valiant and good at fighting. 10,000 of them could conquer a city and 100,000 could conquer a country. They relied on the invincible Black Wind Cavalry of the Shenyuan family. It was rumored that this kind of horse was more ferocious and domineering than ordinary war horses. They were known as the men of sacrifice among horses. "Is it necessary to have a match?" Second Master Jing muttered. He knew clearly whether it was necessary or not. The Han family and the Mu family didn't get along well with each other. The young master of the Han family probably wanted to trample Mu Qingchen under his feet. That was why he sent out the Black Wind Cavalry. Sigh. Second Master Jing grabbed his collar impatiently. "Annoying. I don't want to watch anymore." Wait. What was he annoyed about? Wasn't it exactly what he wanted when that brat's academy lost? Second young Master Jing smirked and stared at the boxing field with his bright and spirited eyes. The gong sounded and the match officially started. The first ball was from the Tianqiong Academy. As the team leader, Mu Qingchen personally kicked the ball to stabilize the team's morale. He shot the ball in the direction of Yuan Shao. Yuan Shao had already understood his intention and was ready to receive the ball. However, before he could swing his club, the horse under him jumped in fright and almost threw him off the back of the horse. When he stabilized himself, the ball had already been snatched away by the students of the Pingyang Academy. The horses of the Tianqiong Academy couldn't outrun the Black Wind Cavalry. Once the people of the Pingyang Academy got the ball, there was basically no room to maneuver. This feeling was a bit like riding an electric scooter to chase a Lamborghini. Could she catch up with it? At the end of the first section, the Pingyang Academy got 3 flags and the Tianqiong Academy didn't. At the end of the second section, the Pingyang Academy got 3 more flags and the Tianqiong Academy got 1. Mu Qingchen attacked from afar. At the end of the third section, the Pingyang Academy got 4 flags and the Tianqiong Academy got 1. Gu Jiao attacked from afar. "If this goes on, we'll definitely lose, right?" Zhong Ding whispered in the stands of the Tianqiong Academy. Zhou Tong looked tense. "I believe in Xiao Lulang." Another student said weakly, "It's mainly because the horses of the Pingyang Academy are too fast and fierce." After the 4 sections, the first half ended. The score was 12-2 and the Tianqiong Academy got 2 flags. It was over. They had no chance at all. They had finally regained their confidence and came to watch a match, but they were about to lose completely. The students of the Tianqiong Academy hung listlessly on the railings like eggplants that had been hit by frost. In the waiting room, Wu Fuzi was so angry that his hair stood on end. Why did they use the Black Wind Cavalry? This is too much. Isn't it obvious that they are bullying us? They used ordinary horses in the last section. The horses of the aristocratic families were not ordinary, but it depended on who they were compared to. In front of the Black Wind cavalry, 10,000 horses could kneel. Wu Fuzi could not take this lying down. He rolled up his sleeves and said, "No, I'll go and reason with their dean. You're allowed to steal the skills on the spot, but we're not allowed to use the Black Wind cavalry?" A mocking voice sounded at the door. Everyone looked toward the source of the voice. It was the Pingyong Academy's young master Han Che. He crossed his arms and leaned against the doorframe. He smiled and said, "Did our academy break the rules?" Wu Fuzi was completely speechless with this sentence. Yes, there was no rule that forbade the use of the Black Wind cavalry, but that was because the person who made the rule did not expect that one day someone would ride the Black Wind cavalry to attack the bow. You're using a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. Is this how you use the Black Wind cavalry? Han Che smiled contemptuously and said, "See you in the arena." Wu Fuzi clenched his fists and gritted his teeth to suppress his anger. He turned to Gu Jiao and said, "Xiao Lu Lang, your horse can't be used anymore. You have to change to another one. The academy's horses are all in the stables. Do you want to pick one, or should I?" Gu Jiao's attack was the fiercest when she was blocking Pingyong Academy's path. Her horse was also the most frightened. On one hand, it was the pressure from the Black Wind cavalry, and on the other hand, it was the threat from its master. Gu Jiao said, "I'll go." "That's true. It's all the same." There was no horse in the stables that was not afraid of the Black Wind cavalry. The stables of the various academies were separated. There were guards outside the stables, and each academy's members could only enter their own stables. Tianqiong Academy's stables were the innermost. Gu Jiao walked forward. As she walked, she suddenly felt a small black shadow flash past her. She tilted her head and frowned slightly. In the next second, the small black shadow flashed past her again. Gu Jiao narrowed her eyes and walked a few steps forward. When the small black shadow flashed past her for the third time, she decisively reached out her hand and caught the small black shadow. The small black shadow was lifted and hung in the air. Gu Jiao took a closer look and was instantly stunned. Jing Kong. She always used a teenage voice when she spoke outside, but little Jing Kong was familiar with her teenage voice. Little Jing Kong raised his head and shouted, "Jiao Jiao." Little Jing Kong threw himself into Gu Jiao's arms. Gu Jiao took advantage of the situation and hugged him. "Why are you here? Aren't you in class?" Xiao Hang said that he would send the little guy to Lingbo Academy before he went to do anything else. Little Jing Kong widened his eyes in a second. "I didn't skip class." Gu Jiao was speechless. Very well, it was a fact that he skipped class. Gu Jiao put the little guy on the ground and asked him to stand properly. Then she bent down slightly and looked at him at eye level. She asked seriously, "Why did you skip class?" I. Little Jing Kong lowered his head and grabbed his little pocket. Gu Jiao pointed at the part of his pocket that his little hand was covering. "What's in your pocket? Take it out." Little Jing Kong took it out guiltily. It's little flower and little rope. I want to braid little Shi's hair." Gu Jiao was slightly stunned. Little Jing Kong mustered up his courage and raised his head. But I've finished all my homework. I've also memorized the teacher's lessons. I really learned everything before I came out." "Little Shi is here?" Gu Jiao asked. The little guy nodded and said pitifully, "Yes, I miss little Shi so much. Last time, I told Brother Xiaoshan that if he and Brother Yen came again, he would secretly bring little Shi over for me to play with." Digression. Why didn't they use the Horse King at the beginning? It was because the horses were afraid of it. Once it appeared, their own horses would kneel down first. Moreover, the Horse King had to work at home. It had to pull the cart and grind the mill. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel was updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels were free to read. There were all kinds of novels that couldn't be found online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428266/10771334. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com BQ mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 657. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that you can't find on the internet are available here. The break was about to end. All the archers mounted their horses and slowly returned to the field. Pingyong Academy's performance was too eye-catching. The moment they appeared, cheers rose and fell from all directions. Han Che rode at the very front. He was tall, handsome, and spirited. Between his brows, there was a carefree and confident feeling that victory was within his grasp. In Shangdu, he was not as famous as Mu Qingchen, but the best way to make a name for oneself was to step on the most famous person. Now that he had defeated Mu Qingchen, everyone would say that he was the same Han Che who defeated young Master Qingchen. Han Che led his team to meet Mu Qingchen and the other two. Pingyong Academy was arrogant. The two sides were just facing each other on their horses, but everyone felt that this place was about to become a terrible battlefield. Mu Chuan looked back and whispered, "Why aren't they here yet?" Wu Fuzi asked Zhao Wei to take a break and let Mu Chuan play a small part. The main reason was that Mu Chuan and Gu Zhao cooperated well in the previous round. Yuan Shao whispered, "I don't know. They're probably still choosing their horses." Mu Chuan was helpless. "It's about to start. We'll break the rules if they don't come soon." The two of them spoke very softly, but Mu Qingchen and Han Che, who had good hearing, almost missed a word. Han Che sneered, "Could it be that the people from your academy were scared of us and decided to run away?" "Haha." The other three people laughed. Mu Chuan snorted. "Who's running away? Do you think everyone is like the Han family, abandoning the city and running away when the enemy comes?" "You." Han Che's face turned cold. There was a story about the Han family abandoning the city and running away. When the Turks invaded and attacked the border of the Yan kingdom, they used a trick to trick the Han family into thinking that the Turks had an army of 10,000. Therefore, the Han family fled with the people that night. But it was not a city, it was a small village. Besides, they were not running away, they were evacuating the people. Mu Chuan knew what he was thinking. He snorted. "You're just a coward." Han Che's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as the veins on his forehead bulged violently. His companion gave him a look, telling him not to get angry so easily. It was not good to go on the field with anger. It was easy to mess up the formation and cause a foul and a penalty kick. Han Che took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He looked at Mu Chuan with amusement and said, "Don't even think about provoking me. Today, your Heaven's Vault Academy will definitely lose. In the second half, I won't let you get a single goal." Mu Chuan was so angry that he almost slapped him with his golf club. "What's so great about that? Wasn't it all because of the Black Wind Cavalry? If you have the ability, change to another horse and fight with us." Han Che did not get angry. Instead, he laughed. "It's my ability to have the Black Wind Cavalry. If you have the ability, go get some Black Wind Cavalry for the Mu clan too." Where did Mu Chuan get it? Really? Why didn't the Mu family get the Black Wind Cavalry when they divided the military power of the Shenyuan family? No one knew if Han Che did it intentionally or not, but he gently pulled on the reins. The Black Wind horse under him suddenly took 2 steps towards Tianqiong Academy. Mu Chuan's and Yuan Zhao's horses neighed in fear as they retreated and tried to escape. "Referee. He's breaking the rules," Mu Chuan said to the referee. The referee looked over. Han Che curled his lips and said with a smile, "My horses didn't touch them. They were the ones who were scared." Mu Chuan gritted his teeth and said, "You're shameless." Mu Chuan. Mu Qingchen calmly called out to him. Mu Chuan unwillingly suppressed the anger in his heart. He was so angry. He wanted to beat this bastard to death. The conflict between the Han family and the Mu clan was not new. The Han family was a new aristocrat while the Mu clan was a century-old prosperous family. The Han family had always wanted to provoke the Mu clan and replace them. Han Che smiled. "The match has started. If you don't have any substitutes, then—" Before he could finish his sentence, a series of strange gasps came from the crowd behind him. He frowned and turned to look in the direction of the entrance. He immediately saw the students of Heaven's Vault Academy riding over on a black horse. Let's not talk about the students for now. What's up with that horse? His entire body was black and shiny. He wore a big red flower on his head and his horse's mane was tied with a red string braid. He walked with an arrogant and elegant gait. Han Che was stunned when he saw him. An absurd thought flashed through his mind. How could it be so enchanting? Why didn't you give it a flaming red lip? In fact, little Jing Kong did steal his bad brother-in-law's rouge. However, Gu Jiao caught him too quickly and didn't have time to apply it on little Shi. Han Che recognized the student on the horse. Then he felt unwell. What was this kid's name again? Xiao Lulang, right? Are you here to bow or to act as a matchmaker? F***CK. Second Master Jing spat out a mouthful of tea. How could there be such an eye-catching horse? Did Heaven's Vault Academy change their strategy? Since they couldn't outrun you, they decided to blind you? Mu Ru Xian covered her mouth with her handkerchief. She also felt that Gu Jiao was fooling around. Who was she trying to embarrass by riding such a horse? He made himself look like a clown. The Duke on the wheelchair suddenly felt strange. His hand gripped the armrest tightly. Because he used too much strength, his arm trembled slightly. Mu Ru Xian noticed his strange behavior and hurriedly asked, "Duke, what's wrong? Don't you want to watch?" Second Master Jing looked at the horse and then looked at his elder brother. He said, "My elder brother really can't watch this. The red flower is on one side of the ponytail but not the other. My elder brother feels uncomfortable when he sees it." Mu Ru Xian was speechless. Did the Duke have such a problem? Everyone was in position. The match started from Heaven's Vault Academy. The bowers from Heaven's Vault Academy urged their horses to move to the side. One of the bowers from Pingyong Academy smiled and said to Han Che, "Look, their horses are trembling even more than in the first half." Another bower looked and saw that it was true. He sneered, "They must be scared of us. Now, they're trembling in fear when they see us. Our horses also seem to be trembling a little. They're trembling because of excitement." The people from Heaven's Vault Academy were all silent. Even though it was different from before and looked more like a horse concubine than a horse king, it was still their academy's mount. They could still recognize it. Mu Chuan muttered softly, "Why did you ride it here? Can't you see that our own horses can't move?" Gu Jiao was a little confused. Oh, how could they still recognize it when it was already so well equipped? Did these horses have a special way of recognizing horses? Gu Jiao said, "But there's no horse more ferocious than it." Mu Chuan didn't dare to raise his voice for fear that the people from Pingyong Academy would eavesdrop. He gritted his teeth and said, "Then how are we going to play later?" Gu Jiao thought for a moment and said, "Stay away from me later." Yuan Shao kicked off the ball. Gu Jiao and Mu Chuan switched positions. Mu Chuan was the assistant bower. Yuan Zhao's kick was excellent. It drew a beautiful and neat arc in the air. He directly swung his club in Mu Qingchen's direction. The people from Pingyong Academy seemed to have seen through his actions. Two of the bowers chased after Mu Qingchen. In terms of speed, their Black Wind cavalry was definitely not inferior to the horses from Heaven's Vault Academy. However, something was wrong as they ran. Whoosh! A black shadow dashed past him. The speed was unimaginably fast. It could only be described as scuttling. The two of them were stunned. "Wait, is it that ugly horse?" Is it so good at running? Haha, we didn't use our full speed, okay? Hiya. The two of them tacitly increased the speed of their horses. However, no matter how fast they sped up, the distance between them and the ugly black horse grew bigger and bigger. The horse's king left them in the dust. At this moment, Mu Qingchen snatched the ball. The horse's king chased after Mu Qingchen's horse. Mu Qingchen's horse was so scared that it used all its strength to charge forward. Fourth brother. Mu Chuan urged his horse and waved at Mu Qingchen. Mu Qingchen saw Mu Chuan's speed and threw the ball in front of Mu Chuan. The ball was very close to Ping Yong Academy's hole. As long as Mu Chuan caught the ball, the flag would be theirs. Han Che and another comrade attacked Mu Chuan from both sides. Mu Chuan turned around to take a look and shouted, "No way! Why are you all coming at me?" His horse was no match for the Black Wind Cavalry. There was no way he could outrun them. Sure enough, Han Che leaped over Mu Qingchen and looked at the polo ball that was falling from the sky. He stretched out his cue stick and hit the polo ball. He didn't touch the ball. His horse suddenly went astray. His body swayed and he was almost thrown off by his horse. What's going on? Who told you to run around? The horses used for arching had been trained for a long time. They were familiar with their master's orders and wouldn't easily disobey them. However, this wasn't the most shocking thing. On the other side, Mu Chuan still didn't get the ball even after Han Che was taken care of. The ball was snatched by another archer from Ping Yong Academy. The archer tightened his grip on the reins and planned to turn around. He wanted to hit the ball into Chenqiong Academy's hole. But before he could move, his horse trembled all over, as if it had been greatly frightened. He was caught off guard and the ball slipped away. Mu Chuan hooked the ball over and hit a hole in the hole. The referee said, "Chenqiong Academy wins a flag." On the spectator stand, a student from Lingbo Academy clapped. Wow! They got a flag at the beginning of the game. That's too fast. His companion beside him said, "Even Ping Yong Academy didn't score so smoothly, right?" Zhong Ding raised his chin and said proudly, "It's from our academy." A disdainful voice came from behind. "So what? You're still behind Ping Yong Academy by 11 flags. Can you catch up?" Zhong Ding and Zhou Tong looked back. It was a student from Wuyue Academy. No wonder. Zhou Tong straightened his back and said, "We won't lose. Just wait and see." They were no longer weak scholars who could be bullied by others. The student from Wuyue Academy mocked, "What if you lose?" Zhou Tong rolled up his sleeves. "If we lose, we'll kowtow to you and call you daddy. If we win, you'll kowtow to us and call us daddy. Heh, don't regret it." The game continued. Strictly speaking, the Black Wind Cavalry was also the descendant of the Wild Horse King. However, after being bred in captivity, their wildness was greatly reduced. Unlike the Wild Horse King, they emitted the aura of a Wild Horse King. The horses from Chenqiong Academy didn't dare to get close to them. Although the Black Wind Cavalry was braver, they weren't much better. Therefore, a strange scene appeared. Gu Jiao rode the Horse King like a big bad wolf that entered a flock of sheep. Wherever she went, the sheep would scatter. Gu Jiao didn't try to snatch the ball. She only did one thing: chase after the Black Wind Cavalry from Ping Yong Academy. If one wasn't enough, she would chase two. If two wasn't enough, she would chase three. The Horse King was full of energy and didn't feel tired at all. The main thing was that this was much more fun than grinding. It didn't even need to be tied into pigtails. Thinking of its ordinary and boring grinding life, the Horse King decided to cherish this short period of joy that was hard to come by. In the end, everyone saw Gu Jiao chasing 4 horses by herself. The Black Wind Cavalry was on the brink of tears. When they were fighting against Qinghua Academy, Gu Jiao was as serious as Gu Jiao was in this game. Ping Yong Academy was in a complete mess because of her. Referee. He broke the rules. A student from Ping Yong Academy complained. The referee walked over. Gu Jiao asked calmly, "Did I intercept you from the front?" She had been chasing after them from behind. "Did my horse touch your horses?" There was at least half a horse's length between them. "Is my cue interfering with you and your horses?" "Golf club. You didn't even wave your golf club after entering the arena." Gu Jiao smirked evilly. "Your horses are timid. Don't blame me." Wasn't this what Han Che had said to Tian Qiong Academy just now? My horses didn't touch them. They were the ones who couldn't take the fright. They didn't expect Han Che's words to turn into a slap to their faces so quickly. Painful, really painful. This kid is good. On the spectator's stand, Second Master Jing couldn't help but praise Gu Jiao. "It's that horse that's powerful." Mu Ruexian said, "Anyone riding that horse would win." Second Master Jing frowned. He didn't agree with her words. "Do you think anyone can ride that kind of wild horse?" He was a martial artist. Years ago, when the Xian Yuan family was on the decline, he had the opportunity to choose a black wind horse that belonged to him. His brother-in-law had asked him, "Do you want a horse that is easy to ride or a good horse?" He didn't understand at that time but gradually understood later. It was a pity that he would never have the chance to tell his brother-in-law the real answer in his heart. Under Gu Jiao's and her horse's efforts, Pingyong Academy didn't score a single ball after 3 rounds. They finally managed to snatch a ball and Han Che had already brought it to Tian Qiong Academy's hole. Gu Jiao rode her horse and stopped there. Han Che's horse immediately turned around and ran. "Han Che, are the 3 of you going to snatch the ball?" Gu Jiao asked the 3 students from Pingyong Academy who were eyeing them covetously. The 3 students' mouths twitched. "You might not believe it, but I want to go over, but my horse won't." "Oh." Gu Jiao shrugged and sighed. "Thank you for letting me win." The 2 of them raised their chins and valiantly snatched the ball away. When the game was nearing its end, there was a shocking reversal in the numbers of both sides. From 12-2 to 12-20, Tian Qiong Academy had 20 points. Everyone's focus shifted from who scored the ball to who would be the next one to be chased down. The faces of the students from Pingyong Academy turned green. They thought that with the black wind horse, there would be no mistakes. Who would have thought that the kid's horse would mess everything up? What kind of crazy beast was that horse? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-826/1076951885. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 658. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with inner content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. What did it mean to live long enough to see? They were definitely watching Tianqiong Academy's bowler. They never knew that a bowler competition could be like this. In the first round, they had learned from Su Ping and used Su Ping to defeat Su Ping, which was already an eye-opener. They didn't expect to see something even more impressive today. Many of them came to watch the competition to see Shangdu's first young master, Mu Qingchen. However, they were all led astray by the freshman. In the last round, they were also led astray by him. Therefore, they were able to verify the saying, "What kind of bowler will raise what kind of horse?" The bowler was not normal, but this horse was not normal either. In the end, the people from Pingyong Academy were completely speechless. Their horses were scared away, but it was more terrifying if they were abducted by the kid's horse. Han Che tightened the reins. "No. Stop! Stop! Nay! Nay was useless. The black-winged cavalry all ran after the Horse King. The Horse King grinned widely as it ran forward, panting loudly. Come on! I'll take you flying! The bowlers from Tianqiong Academy could not bear to watch anymore. This horse was not their teammate. The people in the stands laughed so hard that their stomachs hurt. Those who didn't know horses would think that this horse was too powerful. Those who knew horses would understand that the person who could control it was even more eye-catching. In a pavilion with a beaded curtain on the east side of the stands, a man in a black robe sat upright and drank tea. A little to his right sat a man in an official's robe. The horse is running so fast, but it didn't fall off. Who is that kid? The man in the black robe asked. The man in the official's robe said respectfully, Your Highness, I've seen this person before. He's Mu Qingchen's classmate. I heard that he's from a lower country and has a glib tongue. He once pretended to be a doctor and went to the High Duke's public house to cheat people. The man in the black robe said, Is he the quack that Mu Qingchen brought to the High Duke's public house? The man in the official's robe said, Yes, it is. If Gu Jiao was here, she would definitely recognize him as Lord Xiao, who was in charge of capturing the assassins from the Crown Prince's residence. She had a grudge with Mu Qingchen, so when she found out that she had taken Mu Qingchen's token to the brothel in the inner city, she decisively stepped on her to accuse Mu Qingchen. It was also because of him that Gu Jiao openly went to the public house. The black-robed man said thoughtfully, I think this person is quite capable. Don't beat him up just because you have a grudge with Mu Qingchen. Sir Xiao lowered his eyes. Your Highness is right. This lad's horsemanship is indeed impressive. In other words, Gu Jiao's medical skills were indeed fake, and she wasn't the one who slandered Gu Jiao and Mu Qingchen when she went to the Duke's mansion to swindle people. The black-robed man seemed to be interested in that brat. Official Xiao was worried that he would ask for that brat's name. He didn't want anyone from Mu Qingchen's side to squeeze into His Highness' side. However, the black-robed man just picked up the cup on the table and took a sip of tea. He didn't ask anything else. The game ended with a score of 12-27. Tianqiong Academy had set a new record for the number of flags in a bowler game. Han Che's words, in the second half, I won't let you get a single goal, had come true. However, it had come true on themselves. The dean of Pingyang Academy was sitting next to Dean Cien. He didn't look too good either. He sneered and said, Tianqiong Academy is really capable. You specially got such a crazy horse for this game? Dean Cien smiled and said meaningfully, You're wrong. Tianqiong Academy's horsemanship isn't even half of Pingyang Academy's. You got 4 black wind riders. We were forced to use an untrained horse because we had no other choice. The dean of Pingyang Academy almost vomited blood. The horse was already so fierce without any training. If it was trained again, would it become a god? Don't show off like this. The Han clan was one of the top 4 aristocratic clans in the capital. Gu Jiao's horse had crushed the Han clan's black wind riders. After this game, the Han clan became famous. Han Che wanted to use Mu Qingchen as a stepping stone, but he ended up being used by Gu Jiao. Needless to say, Han Che was going to vomit blood when he went back. There were 5 more games left. After the 4th game, they would rest for 2 hours and continue in the afternoon. Change your clothes and go watch the next game. Maybe one of them will be our opponent next time, Wu Fuzi said to everyone in the attic. Everyone nodded and took their bags to change their clothes. There was only one room. As usual, Gu Jiao asked others to change first. Everyone thought she was shy and didn't suspect anything. After all, Mu Qingchen never changed his clothes in the same room as others. You change first, Mu Qingchen said to Gu Jiao when only the 2 of them were left. Okay. Gu Jiao entered the room. Click. It was the sound of the door being bolted. Mu Qingchen was speechless. After changing their clothes, they went to the stands of Tianqiong Academy. Gu Yan and Gu Shaoshan sat next to Principal Cien. Their cheeks were red from the sun. Gu Jiao thought they looked cute. Her little brother was cute no matter how old he was. When Gu Jiao arrived, Gu Xiaoshun automatically gave up the seat next to her. He had always been sensible and wouldn't fight with anyone for Gu Jiao's seat. Besides, sitting on the other side of Gu Jiao was pretty good. He had no intention of monopolizing her. Gu Yan was sitting in a wheelchair, while Gu Jiao was sitting on a cushion. She was slightly shorter than him. Everyone in Tianqiong Academy knew that Xiao Lulang was Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshun's fiancé. Why was he not fiancé? It was mainly to distance himself from Xiao Hang and prevent others from linking their identities. As for why they didn't directly distance themselves from him, it was because they didn't know that Gu Jiao was also here. Gu Xiaoshun had called him brother-in-law many times. Now, everyone present knew that Gu Jiao had a fiancé in Zhao country. This situation was normal. Yuan Shao and Zhao Wei both had fiancés. One was betrothed before he was born, while the other was betrothed 3 years ago. Fourth brother. Su Shui suddenly appeared in a pink uniform with a veil over her face. Su Shui's eyes were bright and her figure was slim. Even the veil couldn't hide her beauty. Even Zhao Wei and Yuan Shao, who already had fiancés, couldn't help but be stunned. Then, they were attracted by Xiao Hei, who was following behind her. The little guy was a little tanned, but his little face was really cute. His facial features were also very delicate, especially his big blinking eyes. They seemed to be able to speak just by looking at them. His eyelashes were also very long. He looked like a little eyelash fairy. Dean Sun recognized the little guy and waved at him with a smile. Jing Kong is here? Hello, Uncle Dean. Little Jing Kong greeted him politely. Dean Sun introduced him to Mu Qingchen and the others. You guys didn't come because you watched the last match in the attic. He's the little prodigy of Lingbo Academy. His name is Jing Kong. Hello, brothers. Little Jing Kong cupped his hands and bowed. Dean Sun liked this little guy. He pointed at Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshun. Come, this is brother Gu Yan, and this is brother Xiaoshun. You've met them before. Yes, we've met before. Hello, brother Yan. Hello, brother Xiaoshun. Little Jing Kong had traveled a long way with his bad brother-in-law. His acting skills were impeccable. When Dean Sun was about to introduce Gu Jiao, little Jing Kong said cutely, I know him. Uncle Dean pointed him out to me last time. Hello, brother Lulang. Gu Jiao said coldly, yes. Don't you have classes at the academy? Little Jing Kong said, our classes are over. The last class in the morning for the prodigy class was self-study. Little Jing Kong had many ways to get the teacher to let him out. Coincidentally, Su Shui happened to pass by their classroom, so he followed her here. This is... Mu Qingchen looked at little Jing Kong strangely. Su Shui said, he's the one I told you about. He's my roommate's younger brother. Although she didn't live in the dormitory, little Jing Kong sometimes went to their classroom to look for Xiao Hang. Therefore, she knew Jing Kong. Little Jing Kong came to Gu Jiao. Brother Lulang, can I sit with you? Su Shui frowned. Little guy, didn't you say you wanted to sit with me? Little Jing Kong shrugged and said with a sigh, but you already have a brother. I don't. Su Shui was speechless. Little Jing Kong sat between Gu Xiaoshun and Gu Jiao. He was small, so he could sit down easily. Mu Qingchen looked at Su Shui. His eyes were very serious. It was as if he was telling Su Shui that a girl like her shouldn't be here. Su Shui said confidently, I'm here to deliver Jing Kong. I have to bring him back later. She didn't come last time because she had something to do. This time, she wouldn't miss it. It's okay. Dean Sun smiled. Shepherd boy, prepare a seat for Miss Su. Yes. The shepherd boy placed a cushion beside Mu Qingchen for Su Shui. Su Shui sat beside Mu Qingchen with a smile. Fourth brother. Her brother was here. Who could say anything? Moreover, the female teacher from Pingyong Academy was here too. Under such circumstances, there was no need to be too concerned about gender. The fourth match began. The two teams were Mount Song Academy and Purple Forest Academy. These two academies were very good at bowling. They were evenly matched and played very skillfully. There were no jaw-dropping scenes. Everything was normal. Both sides had broken a few rules and were penalized a few times. Everyone was a little confused. It was exciting, but why did they feel that something was wrong? On the opposite side of the stands, the Duke looked as if he had just gone through a terrible torture and was relieved of a burden. Mu Xian felt that it was strange. He stopped looking at the horse because it made him uncomfortable, but he kept staring at it. Although that horse was very eye-catching, that was all. The Duke was still watching, but his eyes weren't looking at the field below. Instead, they were on the opposite side of the stands? On the opposite side were the teachers and students from Pingyong Academy and Tianqiong Academy. Who was the Duke looking at? Mu Qingchen? There was a small accident in the 7th section of the 4th match. One of Mount Song Academy's bowler claimed that he was hit by the other team's cue stick. The other team denied it. In the end, the referee ruled that Black Bamboo Academy's bowler had broken the rules. Mount Song Academy's forfeit was a flag. The two teams were tied at 13. It was the last rest. Who do you think will win? Mu Chuan asked. Yuan Shao said, Black Bamboo Academy. Their offense is more aggressive. Zhao Wei said, but they keep breaking the rules. This is the third forfeit. Gu Yen said, Mount Song Academy is lying. Yuan Shao and Zhao Wei were stunned. Is that so? As soon as they finished speaking, the shepherd boy who went to the attic to fetch water hurriedly came up. Oh no! Mount Song Academy and Black Bamboo Academy are fighting. Conflicts in the field were not rare since ancient times. The group of people sat down and decided to go to the attic to take a look. The shepherd boy happened to be there and brought the news. The rest of the people on the stands did not know about it yet. The teacher of Pingyong Academy was puzzled. Why did everyone leave? Din Sen, Little Jing Kong, Gu Yen, Su Shui, and Mu Chuan were left there. Mu Chuan was responsible for watching Su Shui and Little Jing Kong. When the group of people arrived at the attic, the two sides were engaged in a fierce fight. The gods could not intervene. Archery was a sport that only the children of noble families could afford to play. The children of humble families could not even afford to buy a horse for archery. Moreover, these children of noble families had been practicing martial arts since they were young. How could ordinary bodyguards compare to them? Gu Jiao and Mu Qingchen walked over and separated the wrestlers from each other. Yuan Shao and Zhao Wei helped the guards to restrain the people they threw at them. The scene was extremely chaotic. After everyone was separated, there were still people who wanted to riot. Mu Qingchen shouted, "Stop it, all of you. I won't be polite to anyone who dares to attack again." The two sides finally stopped. Everyone thought that everything was over. Who would have thought that the two sides would use their inner force to hit the wall at the back of the hall? The wall finally could not withstand the pressure and collapsed with a bang. On the other side of the collapsed wall, there were about 20 to 30 servants preparing tea for the attic and the entire grandstand. Mu Qingchen clenched his fists. "Look at what you've done." The wrestlers from Mount Song Academy and Black Bamboo Academy were stunned and ashamed. They were just fighting. They did not want to hurt innocent people. Gu Jiao glanced at the two sides and said, "Come and save them." Everyone began to save them. The wrestlers did not come to the stage, which naturally attracted the attention of the arena. Then the whole academy knew about the accident in the attic. Lingbo Academy had a doctor, but only one. The doctor came in time, but it was obvious that they did not have enough people. Gu Jiao said to Yuan Shao, "Go find Gu Shaoshun and ask him to bring me my first aid kit. Also, find someone to get a few stretchers." There were so many people. She did not know if the medicine in the first aid kit was enough. Okay. Yuan Shao answered and immediately went to do it. Gu Jiao said to Mu Qingchen, "There is not enough space in the hall. I need an open space." Okay. Mu Qingchen took Zhao Wei and asked several guards of Lingbo Academy to use ropes to make a large open space outside the hall. Gu Shaoshun came quickly. Gu Jiao's first aid kit was put in Gu Yan's basket one day in advance. In addition to the first aid kit, there were some medicine that Gu Yan needed. Lu Lang. Here it is. Gu Xiaoshun stepped over the rope and came to Gu Jiao's side. At this time, there were two injured people who were dug out from under the rubble lying on the ground. Both of them had injured their legs. It was not too serious, but they needed immediate treatment. Gu Jiao reached for the first aid kit, but found that it was a small medicine box. You brought the medicine box? Gu Xiaoshun asked. Didn't you put it on last night? Gu Jiao shook her head. I put it on the first aid kit. Oh, I also brought the first aid kit. Gu Xiaoshun handed over the first aid kit in his other hand. Then he thought for a moment and said, maybe it was Gu Yan who put it on? Digression. Temporarily changed the cover. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-89642-826/1076676164. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 659. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are available here. Patients were carried out one after another. Gu Jiao didn't dwell on this issue anymore. Gu Jiao and the doctor from Lingbo Academy had a simple discussion about the patient's triage. After all, they were busy with their own things, so it was difficult to achieve the effect of 1 + 1 + 2. The doctor from Lingbo Academy nodded in agreement. Little brother, you're right. Most people would save the more important patients first. If they were of the same status, they would save the most seriously injured patients first. Actually, this wasn't the best choice for a doctor. However, there were too few people who understood this and dared to do it. After the triage, Gu Jiao asked Mu Qingchen to clear away the irrelevant people at the scene. Other than the doctor and a few people she asked to stay, no one else was allowed to come close. First, it would affect the treatment. Second, it would cause trampling and shoving. As for whether the medicine box was exposed or not, it was a matter of life and death, so they couldn't care less. However, after asking around for so long, other than the state preceptor himself, no one else knew about these modern machines. There was nothing to worry about. Sister, I found a room inside. The light is good, Gu Xiaoshun said to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao nodded. Okay, I'll send in the patients who need surgery after I'm done with the triage. Out of the 5 patients carried out, 3 had superficial wounds, 1 was seriously injured, and the other had a dislocated right arm. The seriously injured patient had internal bleeding and was in a critical condition. The doctor from Lingbo Academy shook his head. It's impossible to save him. If the people from the State Preceptor's Hall were here, there might be a chance, but the doctors among the people were afraid. The stretcher is here, Yuan Shao said. Mu Chuan and Wu Fuzi came over too. The academy didn't have a stretcher, so Wu Fuzi brought them to make it at the last minute. There were 6 stretchers in total. Gu Jiao pointed at the seriously injured patient. Carry him in. The doctor was stunned. Little brother, what are you doing? Gu Jiao said, I'll leave you the first aid kit for the surgery. You saw how I used the medicine just now. I think I saw it, but... The doctor looked at the patient who was being carried in disbelief. Can this person really be saved? Is this student a Bauer? It wasn't surprising that he knew some simple bandaging, but was he really confident in treating such a serious injury? Little brother. The doctor had good intentions. He didn't want the young man to be impulsive and kill the patient. He didn't want the young man to be responsible for it. Before he could speak, Gu Shaoshan arrived and said to Wu Fuzi and Zhao Wei, who were carrying the stretcher, "This room." Wu Fuzi and Wu Fuzi carried the injured inside. To be honest, the two of them could see that there was something wrong with that person's injuries. Xiao Lulang was just an outsider who came to help. He didn't have to work so hard. To put it bluntly, they were also worried that Xiao Lulang would kill him. "Bring the other stretchers over there." Gu Jiao pointed in the direction of the collapse. The collapsed area was on the right side of the attic. It wasn't far from the open space in front of them. "What do I do?" Mu Qingchen asked. Gu Jiao said, "I need planks to fix the arms and legs." Mu Qingchen said, "Okay, I got it." Mu Chuan hurriedly said, "Fourth brother, I'll go too." Mu Qingchen said, "I'll go alone. You stay here and don't let anyone in." Mu Chuan felt the trust and weight in his fourth brother's words. He said seriously, "Yes, fourth brother." The dean of Lingbo Academy also arrived at the scene. He thought it would be chaotic, but everything was in order. Everyone had a clear division of labor. Even Mount Song Academy and Black Bamboo Academy, who were originally fighting, put aside their previous grudges and worked together to dig a hole in the collapsed area to save the patient. As for the situation that he was most worried about, it didn't happen. Mu Qingchen led the academy and the Mu family's guards to surround the scene. Even a fly couldn't get in. It was under these circumstances that he saw Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao had just connected a patient's dislocated arm when Mu Qingchen came over with planks of various sizes. Gu Jiao wrapped a plank around the patient's arm and wrapped it with gauze before hanging it around his neck to help him break. The dean of Lingbo Academy was confused. "Wait, isn't this the Chenqiong Academy's Zhu Ju Shou who single-handedly led everyone astray? From secretly learning from Su Ping in the previous round to messing with the Black Wind Cavalry in this round, every hair on his body was indecent." He couldn't recognize him when he suddenly became serious. After Gu Jiao finished breaking the patient, she handed him to the doctor of Lingbo Academy. "Take care of the dislocation. His leg is still injured." The doctor of Lingbo Academy nodded. "I know. I'll do it. You can go in for the operation." The dean of Lingbo Academy widened his eyes. This brat can operate on people? There weren't enough doctors. After knowing that the Duke's estate brought a godly doctor over, the dean of Lingbo Academy immediately asked for help from Second Master Jing. Second Master Jing looked at Mu Ru Xian. Mu Ru Xian said, "A doctor has a benevolent heart. Saving lives and helping the injured is my duty. Dean, please lead the way." "Thank you, godly Dr. Mu." The dean of Lingbo Academy was wild with joy and quickly brought Mu Ru Xian to the scene. Mu Ru Xian didn't let anyone take her medicine box from the carriage. It was full of precious medicines and she couldn't bear to use it on a group of servants. It just so happened that the others didn't know she brought it. Gu Jiao was halfway through the operation. The patient's internal bleeding was very serious. Blood splashed onto her goggles and she suddenly couldn't see anything. Both her hands were busy so she couldn't wipe the blood away. "Xiao Shun," she called out. Mu Qingchen and Wu Fuzi were fixing the deck for the patient with fractures. When they heard her call, they quickly got up and walked over. Just as he was about to ask Gu Jiao what she needed, he saw a tall figure enter the room before him. The owner of the figure extended a slender hand and used a handkerchief to wipe the blood off Gu Jiao's goggles. "Hemostatic forceps," she said. That person skillfully took the hemostatic forceps and handed it to her. She took it and clamped the blood vessel. "Needle holder," she said again. The man handed her the needle and forceps without any mistake. She was halfway through the suturing when she suddenly realized that Gu Shaoshan didn't know about these things. Only Gu Yen knew because Gu Yen was the only one who asked her out of curiosity. She abruptly looked at the person beside her and was slightly stunned. Xiao Heng didn't speak. There were people watching outside so he couldn't speak. Gu Jiao caught a glimpse of Mu Qingchen at the door from the corner of her eyes. She pretended not to notice and continued to suture. "Thank you, Mississippi. Please pass me the third pair of scissors on your right. A life is at stake. If I offend you, please forgive me." Xiao Hang was wearing the uniform of Tsonglon Academy and a veil. His side profile was as delicate as jade. "Qing Chen, come and help." Wu Fu Zi's voice sounded outside. Mu Qingchen looked at the two of them deeply. In the end, he didn't enter the room. He turned around and helped Wu Fu Zi treat the wounded. Gu Jiao had already classified the wounded and left enough medicine for the doctors of Ling Bo Academy. The treatment on the scene was busy but not in a panic. This was the situation Mu Ru Xian saw. She came with the attitude of a savior, but here, there didn't seem to be much use for her. She had been to the scene of the accident with her master before. The accident wasn't so big, but it was still very messy. "Here. This is Miss Mu, Divine Dr. Luo's disciple," the dean of Ling Bo Academy said to his doctor. When the doctor heard the words Divine Dr. Luo, he didn't have much of a reaction. He pointed at a patient with a thigh injury. "I'll have to trouble Miss to help treat his injury." The scene that Mu Ru Xin expected to be the center of attention didn't appear. She frowned and looked at the other unconscious patient lying in a pool of blood. She said, "I'll treat him first. His injuries are more serious." Serious and urgent were two different things. His injury was more serious, but the bleeding had stopped. His injury wouldn't worsen for the time being. If the patient with the thigh injury wasn't treated in time, he might become the second critical patient due to excessive blood loss. Fortunately, the doctor was about to finish treating the patient, so he didn't say anything. Mu Ru Xin treated the unconscious patient while the doctor went to stop the bleeding for the patient with the thigh injury. Gu Jiao finished the first operation. After that, Gu Xiaoshun brought in a few more patients. Their injuries weren't too serious. When Mu Qingchen passed by the door, he paused and casually glanced inside. He happened to see Xiao Hang wiping the sweat from Gu Jiao's forehead. "Gauze," Gu Jiao said. Xiao Hang casually picked up a piece of gauze and handed it to her. Outside the door, Mu Ru Xin and the doctor from Lingbo Academy were also treating a patient's injury. The two didn't discriminate between men and women. They passed things and helped each other. However, for some reason, Mu Qingchen felt that the atmosphere at Gu Jiao's side was different from Mu Ru Xian's side. It was an indescribable feeling. The news was tightly sealed, so it didn't affect the 4 matches in the afternoon. When the matches ended, all the treatment work was successfully completed. Song Mountain Academy and Black Bamboo Academy were disqualified for the following matches due to their violation of the rules. Most of the injured patients were from Lingbo Academy. There were also a few disciples from the academy who were injured in the fighting and in the process of saving people. The 3 deans expressed their gratitude to Gu Jiao and Mu Ru Xin, especially Gu Jiao. Her performance was really amazing. Mu Ru Xin felt that her limelight had been stolen. It was just a swindling quack. After a few days, when the patient's condition worsened, these people would understand who was the true descendant of the divine doctor. She said, "Dean, you're too polite. It's my duty. There's no need to mention it." Gu Jiao handed 3 lists to the 3 deans. "The consultation fee will be paid on the spot. No credit." The 3 deans were speechless. The dean of Lingbo Academy coughed lightly and took the longest list. "It's my duty. It's my duty." Mu Ru Xin mocked. "Heh, young Master Xiao, a doctor should be benevolent. You're only treating a few patients. Aren't you embarrassed to accept the consultation fee? You don't have to be so stingy." Gu Jiao directly handed the remaining 2 lists to her. "If you're so generous, why don't you pay?" Mu Ru Xin choked. Gu Jiao only accepted her portion. As for whether Mu Ru Xin and that doctor wanted to find someone else to settle the consultation fee, that was their business. Xiao Heng's appearance at the scene didn't arouse anyone's suspicion because Su Shui had also come later. However, the scene was too busy, so Su Shui was left outside. When she saw Gu Jiao and Xiao Hang coming out one after another, she then realized that the two of them were in the same room. But when she thought about how everyone was treating the patients, she didn't suspect anything. There were people inside and outside the loft. Gu Jiao and Xiao Hang maintained the appearance of strangers from beginning to end. They didn't even make eye contact. The deans also expressed their gratitude to Xiao Hang, Su Shui, Mu Qingchen, and the others. Mu Qingchen said to Gu Jiao, "Let's go." He then said to Su Shui, "You should also go back." Su Shui pouted. "Oh." Gu Jiao paused and suddenly turned around. She cupped her hands and bowed to Xiao Hang. "Thank you for just now." Xiao Hang also bowed slightly to Gu Jiao in return. Yuan Xiao touched his chin and muttered, "You two are just thanking each other. Why do you make it seem like you're going through a wedding ceremony?" Mu Qingchen and Su Shui glared at him. Yuan Xiao turned around and touched the back of his head. Let's go." The two sides said their goodbyes. Xiao Hang went to the stands to pick up little Jing Kong, while Gu Jiao and the others went to the stables. When Gu Jiao went to the innermost stables and planned to lead the Horse King out, she saw a man standing outside. It was a man about 30 years old. He wasn't too tall, but he had a strong body and strong facial features. The man was originally observing the Horse King in the stables. When he saw Gu Jiao, he immediately showed a gentle smile. "Little brother Xiao." He turned around and greeted. "Who are you?" Gu Jiao asked. He said politely, "My surname is Chu. Little brother Xiao, you can call me Chu Nan." "What's the matter?" Gu Jiao asked again. He turned his head and smiled at the Horse King in the stables. He then turned to Gu Jiao and said, "I like this horse very much." "It's not for sale," Gu Jiao said. He couldn't help but laugh. "That's not what I meant. Little brother Xiao, don't misunderstand." Gu Jiao opened the gate of the fence and went in to lead the Horse King out. The Horse King was as gentle as it was in front of Gu Jiao, but it was as fierce as it was when it passed by Chu Nan. Chu Nan took a step back and said with a smile, "Your horse is very interesting. Can I take a look at it? I want to see how old it is." Gu Jiao wanted to refuse, but when she heard the last sentence, she paused. "You know how to look at horses?" Chu Nan laughed. "You really don't know how old it is?" Gu Jiao looked at him strangely. "What do you mean?" Chu Nan looked at the Horse King and said, "If you knew how old it was, you wouldn't have ridden it so early. I couldn't see it clearly when it bowed, but I guess it's not even 3 years old." "I'm a horse trainer," he added. Gu Jiao said to him, "Then take a look." "It's my honor." Chu Nan came in front of the Horse King. Maybe it was because Gu Jiao allowed it, but the Horse King didn't fiercely attack Chu Nan this time. Chu Nan guided the Horse King to open its mouth. He was probably worried that Gu Jiao or Gu Jiao's family would imitate it. He reminded, "This is very dangerous. Normal people shouldn't do this." "Look at yours," Gu Jiao said. Chu Nan checked the Horse King's teeth and exclaimed, "It's younger than I thought. It's only 2.5 years old." Gu Jiao was shocked. It had such great strength. How could it be so young? Chu Nan admired it. It's a Horse King, right? But a 2.5-year-old Horse King is quite rare. Also, it doesn't look like a normal Horse King. Gu Jiao said, "So it's not fully grown yet and can't be ridden?" Chu Nan said, "You can ride it, but you have to be careful." This was because Gu Jiao's Horse King was strong enough. Other horses could only be ridden when they were at least 3 years old. Chu Nan continued to ask, "It shouldn't be ridden too often like today. You don't train it like this every day, right?" "No." Gu Jiao rarely rode it, and her family didn't ride it either. Thinking of something, Gu Jiao asked again, "Can it work? The kind that pulls carriages and mills?" Chu Nan smiled and nodded, "It's not a problem at all. It's very strong." After saying that, Chu Nan felt that something was wrong. Why would a Horse King need to pull a mill? Gu Jiao made a sound and looked at the Horse King. "So you're still a baby. I always thought you were very old." The Horse King's face fell like an old man. Chunan laughed out loud. A 2.5-year-old Horse King wasn't small. It was about the same size as an adult horse, equivalent to a teenager. It was the age when it was the most rebellious. So it couldn't be blamed for being so happy in the boxing ring. What Chunan didn't say was that this was a good horse that was hard to come by in 100 years. The only thing that could be compared to it was the mount of war god Shenyuan Li. Unfortunately, Shenyuan Li and his mount had died in battle. After Gu Jiao led the Horse King away, Chunan also left the stable and walked in the opposite direction. Han Che had been waiting for a long time. "Young master." Chunan bowed. Han Che asked seriously, "How is that horse?" Chunan told him the truth. Han Che frowned. "How is our Han family's Black Wind King compared to it?" Chunan was slightly stunned and patted his head. "I forgot about Black Wind King. Of course Black Wind King is better. Black Wind King is a rare horse. But Black Wind King belongs to Big Brother." Han Che looked at the Horse King that was led away by Gu Jiao. "If only it was mine." When Gu Jiao led the Horse King out, Xiao Hang had already taken little Jing Kong away. Gu Yan and Din Sen were also gone. She walked toward the gate of the academy. When she passed by the stands on the other side, she found that most of the spectators had left. Only the students from Tianqiong Academy and Wuyue Academy were left. Both sides were ready to fight. Mu Qingchen stopped them. "What's the matter?" Gu Jiao walked over and asked. Without waiting for Mu Qingchen to speak, Zhou Tong pulled Gu Jiao's sleeve as if she had seen her savior. She pointed at the students from Wuyue Academy and said, "They made a bet with us. If our academy won, they would call us father. But they didn't admit it and even wanted to beat us up." Gu Jiao asked Zhou Tong, "Did you beat them up?" Zhou Tong pursed her lips. "Almost." Young Master Qingchen arrived. A student from Wuyue Academy said, "Heh, don't think that you're so great just because you won 2 matches. You just cheated with a horse." Zhou Tong said angrily, "Who cheated? You better watch your mouth." Gu Jiao sighed and said, "Forget it. Stop arguing. It's my fault." Everyone was stunned. Mu Qingchen frowned. Although the students from Wuyue Academy did not know why Gu Jiao admitted her mistake, they guessed that Gu Jiao was scared. They suddenly felt confident. The leading student sneered. "You also know that you're wrong?" "Of course." Gu Jiao nodded seriously and looked at the people from Wuyue Academy. "It's the father's fault for not teaching his son well. You're shameless." "It's my fault." Digression. K.O. Daddy Jiao is still your Daddy Jiao. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89646555896. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 660. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more exciting content. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. On the way back, Gu Jiao rode the academy's horse. The Horse King led the way happily. Gu Jiao rode her horse to the side of the carriage and asked Gu Yan, who was in the carriage, "Did you bring the medicine box?" Gu Yan looked at Gu Jiao in confusion. "I didn't bring it. Why would I bring it?" Gu Jiao muttered, "Oh, then why is it in the basket?" Gu Yan said, "Xiao Shun put it there?" "It wasn't me." On the other side, Gu Shaoshan said, I took the basket and set off this morning. I didn't touch the things inside. Gu Yen thought for a moment and looked at Gu Jiao. You put it there. Have you forgotten? Gu Jiao hesitated. Then, maybe. The medicine box couldn't have run into the basket by itself. When she found out that the first aid kit was not enough, she did think that it would be better if the medicine box was there. Now that it was really there, she was paranoid again. Forget it. Forget it. Lu Lang. Mu Chuan rode over. Mu Qingchen was on the other side of Gu Jiao. When Mu Chuan came over, he didn't move aside. Mu Chuan was a little anxious. Fourth brother, can't you see? Can't you see that I have something to say to Lu Lang? If fourth brother didn't move aside, Mu Chuan couldn't do anything. After all, he couldn't beat fourth brother. Mu Chuan could only talk to Gu Jiao with Mu Qingchen between them. Lu Lang, do you really know medicine? Last time, after the competition, they met the Duke who had fallen near the academy. At that time, Gu Shaoshan said that Xiao Lu Lang knew medicine and asked Xiao Lu Lang if he wanted to take a look at the Duke. They only thought that Xiao Lu Lang was at an ordinary level, but today, Xiao Lu Lang treated several seriously injured patients, which surprised them. Mu Qingchen was also waiting for Gu Jiao's answer. Oh, Gu Jiao replied, I've learned a little. That's not a little, right? Mu Chuan raised an eyebrow. Mu Qingchen seemed to have noticed Gu Jiao's reluctance to talk about this topic, so he said to Mu Chuan, Is it hot to squeeze over there? Aren't you not going back to the academy? Mu Chuan said, I'll go. If you go back, I'll go back. Mu Qingchen did not say anything else. Mu Chuan chatted with Gu Jiao for a while, and then the road out of the city gate narrowed, so Mu Chuan had to walk away from them. Mu Qingchen had always been confused, but he did not know if he should say it. When they were about to part ways in the academy, he finally stopped Gu Jiao. Do you know Su Shui's roommate? No, I don't. Gu Jiao denied it. He just learned about the incident in the attic from Jing Kong and Dean Sen when he went to pick up Jing Kong. He came to see if there was anything he could help with. You don't talk so much usually. Mu Qingchen said with a complicated expression. Gu Jiao blinked and said confidently, Isn't it because of his beauty? I'm a little tempted. Mu Qingchen was choked by her words. Every time you thought that your classmate's skin was already thick enough, he would be thicker by an inch for you to see. Mu Qingchen frowned and said, You have a fiancé. Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows and said carelessly, Everyone loves beauty. Even if I have a fiancé, it won't stop me from looking at beauties. I think you're really... Mu Qingchen could not reach a consensus with Gu Jiao on this topic, so he rode his horse to the front. Gu Jiao looked at his angry back and thought that men in ancient times had such a strong sixth sense. She and Xiao Heng were almost caught doing nothing. It seemed that she had to be more careful in the future. After arriving at the academy, Gu Jiao returned the horse to the stable and then took Dean Sen's carriage with Gu Shaoshan and Gu Yen back home with the Horse King. I guess that you would win. The food is ready. Madame Nan brought the food with a smile. It was Master Lu who cooked. He cooked the children's favorite pork knuckle with rock sugar, braised crucian carp, dried bamboo shoots with vinegar and stewed lotus seed soup that Madame Nan liked. Of course, there was also the stinky mandarin fish that old Master Meng had been talking about for a long time. The whole family was smelled. The Horse King rolled its eyes and stuck its tongue out in the backyard. It swore that it would never walk away from this stinky old man again. Gu Yen was allowed to eat a piece of shiny pork knuckle skin today and was very satisfied. Did you bring the pickled radish to Lu Lang and Jing Kong? Madame Nan asked. I gave it to Jing Kong. Gu Shaoshan said. Madame Nan nodded. I miss Jing Kong and Lu Lang. Gu Yen did not refute her. When Jing Kong was still around, he always complained that Jing Kong was too noisy. Now that Jing Kong was gone, he felt that his home was not lively enough. Humph, little stinky monk. The night was falling. In a dormitory of the Kanglan Women's Academy, little Jing Kong sat on his chair. In front of him were the dishes that Brother Shaoshan brought him today. He was very picky. No matter how simple the dishes were, they had to be very delicate. It was because he had set up the plate that they were late for dinner. "Can we eat now?" Xiao Heng asked faintly. "Yes." Little Jing Kong shook his little head. He picked up his small chopsticks with satisfaction and picked up a piece of pickled radish that Madame Nan had pickled herself. The pickled radish was shaped into small flowers and looked very delicious. He couldn't wait to put it into his mouth. Just as he took a bite, it tasted so bad that he fell backwards and rolled off the chair. "Oh, why does it taste as bad as what my bad brother-in-law made? It's so salty." Because little Jing Kong had eaten 2 salty dishes, he drank 2 large cups of water, causing his stomach to be round when he went to bed. He climbed onto the bed with great difficulty and lay down on the mattress like a little salted fish without a soul. Not long after, the little salted fish started to snore. The weather was hot and there were more mosquitoes. Xiao Hang went over and clamped the curtains. He couldn't sleep. Little Nine stood on the tree outside the window to keep watch. He thought for a while and called Little Nine over. In the house, after the family had eaten dinner, they washed up and returned to their rooms. Gu Jiao went to check Gu Yan's pulse and listened to his heart and lungs as usual. Gu Yan was already asleep. Gu Jiao was very gentle and didn't wake him up. After returning to the room, Gu Jiao planned to rest. Suddenly, a small black shadow fell on the windowsill outside. "Ku," Little Nine called. Gu Jiao went over and gently pushed the window lattice. Little Nine flapped his wings and flew up. After the window lattice was opened, he flew in and landed on the desk by the window. There was a small pouch tied to Little Nine's right leg. Gu Jiao took down the pouch and opened it. There was a stack of banknotes, a note and a brand new hairband. The hairband was made of blue ice silk. It was very soft to the touch and the color was very good. It complemented the blue and white uniform of Chenqiong Academy. The banknotes were worth 1,000 taels. There were only 2 simple words written on the note: household use. Gu Jiao supported her chin with one hand and played with the ice blue hairband with the other. She looked at the word household use over and over again. In other words, this was a love letter. Gu Jiao smiled. She opened the drawer and took out a piece of paper. She knew how to write a love poem too. Xiao Heng sat in the room and waited. He wasn't sure if she had rested. But when facing Gu Jiao, he wouldn't hesitate so much. Luckily, Little Nine flew back after a short while. Little Nine was holding the pouch in her mouth. He opened the pouch and took out a paper crane from it. The paper crane was made from the water pattern paper he gave her. He still remembered her indescribable expression when she received the paper. He didn't expect that she would bring the paper to Yen country's capital. There was something else in the pouch. He took it out and saw that it was a note written on the water pattern paper. The first one read, "The mountain has no edges, the heaven and earth are united, only then I dare to break up with you." Xiao Heng's handsome face turned red. Was this lass confessing her feelings to him? Did she have to be so explicit? The second one read, "I won't be lovesick in my life. Only then will I be lovesick, and I will be lovesick." Xiao Heng's face turned even hotter. So she missed him so much. The third one read, "The bottom of the lovesick tree is endless. I hate myself for not knowing." Xiao Heng's heart seemed to be filled with something. It was swollen and scalding. He didn't know that this lass had such literary talent. Also, her feelings for him were actually so deep. Gu Jiao wrote more than 10 notes. Every one of them made Xiao Heng's face turn red and his heart beat wildly. But it wasn't just from one note that the love poem on the note gradually became a little strange. "The world is long, and the world is long, but sometimes it ends. This hatred is endless." The corner of Xiao Heng's mouth twitched. This love can become a memory, but at that time, it was already lost. Xiao Heng's face stiffened. "Returning your bowl of heartless tears, I hate that we didn't meet before." At the end, she even drew half of a little person beating her chest and stamping her feet. Xiao Heng. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, Please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1076377707. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 661. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet can be found here. Gu Jiao had a problem. She would feel sleepy after reciting poems. She could grit her teeth and persevere at the beginning, but at the end, she was so sleepy that she didn't even know what she had written. Even the purse was taken away by Xiao Jiu. Xiao Heng was angry and amused at the same time when he read the last part. He had thought that those poems were written from the bottom of her heart. Now, it seemed that she had copied them from somewhere. Looking at the last few notes, the words were crooked. She must have been so sleepy that she didn't even know where she had copied them. Xiao Heng gritted his teeth in anger. What a waste of my excitement. I won't fall for your tricks again, little liar. She must have fallen asleep. Xiao Heng didn't reply. Xiao Jiu saw that there was nothing else for him to do and flew back to the tree branch. Xiao Heng still couldn't sleep. If it wasn't for the love poems, he wouldn't be so petty as to care about this. It was the information he had found during the day that made him need to calm down and carefully sort it out. After Gu Jiao told him that the people behind Nan Gongli were the royal family, he went to the busiest tea house in Shangdu to find a few storytellers to understand the royal family's background. He didn't find out much, but he did know a thing or two about the Nangong family. The Nangong family and the Crown Prince's residence were close. This was a tacit secret in Shangdu. The Crown Prince of Zhao Country lived in the East Palace, while the Crown Prince of Yen Country left the palace to build a residence. The Crown Prince of Yen Country was the king's second son. His birth mother was Imperial Concubine Han. The young master who had prepared the viewing platform for him that day was the Crown Prince's eldest son, Ming Jun Wang. Ming Jun Wang was cousins with Han Che, who had struck the bow at Pingyong Academy today. Even though there was no evidence that the Crown Prince's residence had instigated the Nangong family, the Crown Prince's residence was still the most suspicious. So the question was, who was the Crown Prince's residence? Why did they want to deal with him? Tonight, Shengdu was particularly stuffy, and there wasn't the slightest bit of coolness at night. The Duke's residence that had been busy for the whole day gradually quieted down. Mu Ruxian sat in her room. "Bring some more ice over," she said with a frown. "Miss, what's wrong with you?" the maidservant asked, puzzled. There were already 2 basins of ice in the room, and if there were any more, she would catch a cold. "I'm not happy," Mu Ruxian said gloomily. Thinking of what had happened in the academy, she increasingly felt that Xiao Lulang was getting in her way. She said angrily. He saw that this was a great opportunity to make friends with the 3 deans, so he purposely took away the heavily injured ones and only left me with a few lightly injured ones. The maidservant didn't know how to respond. "Forget it. Let's sleep." Mu Ruxian put down her fan and went to bed. A maidservant came over to put down the curtain for her and comforted her. "Miss, he's just a student from another country. You'll soon become the High Duke's adopted daughter. When the time comes, let's see how he can compete with you." Speaking of this, Mu Ruxian sighed. "Say, we've already spread the news for so long and the whole manor knows about it. Why haven't Second Master and Second Madam made a move yet? Could it be that I have misunderstood Second Madam's intentions?" The maidservant said, "How could it be? Second Madam asked Miss like that to sound out Miss's intentions. I'm guessing it'll be soon." Mu Ruexin lay down and said longingly, I don't have parents. It was my master who raised me. If I really become the High Duke's adopted daughter, I'll definitely be filial to him. To make up for his regret of losing his daughter. In the High Duke's courtyard. The High Duke had already rested, but Lien Qiao was careless and accidentally spilled the entire cup of tea on the bed. Lien Qiao had no choice but to help the High Duke into the wheelchair and find a new mattress. The High Duke opened his eyes and placed both his hands on the armrests of the wheelchair. On his right was the bedside table. On the table was the rouge that Lien Qiao had just bought and planned to bring back to her room. She was playing with the rouge just now, so she absent-mindedly knocked over the basin that was supposed to be used to wipe the High Duke's hands. She was so frightened that she didn't even have time to close the lid of the rouge. The High Duke's right hand was only about 2 inches away from the rouge. If he moved slightly, he would be able to touch it. However, for the High Duke who couldn't even control himself to blink, moving his fingers accurately was an extremely difficult task. The High Duke stared fixedly at the box of rouge. It took him a Herculean effort to touch the rouge with trembling hands. He dipped his fingers into the rouge and once again spent a Herculean effort to write a crooked character with trembling hands. The next day, Gu Jiao and Gu Shaoshun went to class at Tianqiong Academy. The moment Gu Jiao entered the academy, she felt a few inexplicable gazes directed at her. Lu Lang. A student greeted her with a smile. She didn't know him. Lu Lang. Another student greeted her with a face full of smiles. She didn't know him. What was going on? She hadn't seen him for a night and everyone was so enthusiastic. Lu Lang. After being greeted by countless unfamiliar students, she finally saw someone she knew. Zhou Tong. Shaoshun. Zhou Tong stopped in front of Gu Jiao and Gu Shaoshun with a smile. Gu Jiao asked, Is something going to happen today? Why is everyone like that? Zhou Tong asked, Like what? Lu Lang. About 17 unfamiliar students greeted Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao signaled with her eyes. Like just now. Zhou Tong looked at the back of the student who was walking away and suddenly smiled. You're talking about everyone knowing you. What's so strange about that? Don't you remember that you won the competition yesterday? Gu Jiao said, That doesn't mean they all know me. It wasn't like they all went to watch the competition. Zhou Tong chuckled and grabbed her wrist through her sleeve. Come with me and you'll know. Gu Shaoshun bared her teeth. Hey, let go of my sister. Zhou Tong brought Gu Jiao to the academy's bulletin board. It was already surrounded by the academy's students. Lu Lang is here. Someone in the crowd shouted. The people who had been gathered in front of the bulletin board suddenly dispersed and made way for Gu Jiao. This treatment caught Gu Jiao a little off guard. Zhou Tong didn't stand on ceremony with them. He happily pulled Gu Jiao to the front and pointed at the bulletin board. Look. Gu Jiao looked at it. On the left side of the bulletin board was yesterday's competition and the great commendation for them. On the right side were portraits of them, but only Gu Jiao was riding on a horse. She held the reins in one hand and the cue stick in the other. Half of her back was shown. She turned her head and revealed half of her face. What was revealed was the right side of her face that didn't have a birthmark. Her clothes fluttered in the wind and her hair ribbons flew across her face. She looked indescribably valiant. Even next to the handsome Mu Qingchen, she didn't pale in comparison. Gu Jiao looked at the young man in bright clothes and almost didn't recognize herself. Was this how she looked in the eyes of others? Zhou Tong said, We worked together to draw it. We drew it all night. Only then did Gu Jiao notice that Zhou Tong's eyes were dark. She then looked at Zhong Ding and the others who were putting up the portraits. They all had heavy dark circles under their eyes. This was something that Gu Jiao had never experienced in her previous life. In her previous life, she was always first in the exams and won many prizes. However, no one could get close to her. Or rather, she didn't want to get close to anyone. Her identity meant that she couldn't have any friends. How did we draw? Zhou Tong asked expectantly. Gu Jiao's gaze swept across Zhou Tong, Zhong Ding, and everyone who went to the competition yesterday. Everyone looked at her with anticipation and anxiety in their eyes. Not bad, Gu Jiao said. Everyone smiled as if relieved of a burden. They were students of the literature department and were good at zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. However, they didn't know why they had to wait until Gu Jiao personally acknowledged their drawings. Don't you all have classes? Gu Jiao asked indifferently. Zhou Tong smiled. Yes, we have classes. Gu Jiao turned around and walked away coolly. After taking a few steps, she said casually, draw a few more. The walls at home are a little empty. Tianqiong Academy hadn't been so popular for a long time. Although they were called the Royal Academy, in fact, that was many years ago. The last time they had a top scholar was 17 years ago. After that, they didn't even have a second or third place, let alone a top scholar. They weren't good at literature or martial arts and were often laughed at. Now that they had won 2 consecutive competitions and defeated 2 powerful academies, they were elated. Dean Sun was also very happy. He called Gu Jiao, Mu Qingchen, and the others to his duty room and praised them. You did well in these 2 competitions and showed Tianqiong Academy's standard. However, don't be arrogant. Train well and strive to win glory for the academy in the next competition. Mu Qingchen and the others cupped their hands. Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. That's it. Dean Sun was stunned. Gu Jiao said, aren't you going to give me something more practical? For example, the prize money? Dean Sun was speechless. Ahem. Dean Sun coughed and said seriously, the academy is short on funds recently. If you win next time, we'll give you everything. Gu Jiao caught the main point. Then you won't give us anything if we lose? Dean Sun coughed. You little brat, can you not talk about money every 3 sentences? How can people who read books stink of money? Gu Jiao asked, so are we giving or not? Dean Sun was speechless. Was it too late for him to say no? On the way back to Bright Heart Hall, Mu Qingchen asked Gu Jiao, are you short on money? Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. You can say that. Do you have a way to earn money? Mu Qingchen said, I can lend you as much as you want. There's no need. Gu Jiao waved her hand. She wasn't short on money now. She was just preparing for a rainy day. Gu Yan's surgery would take place next month. It might cost a lot of money. Gu Jiao said seriously, if you have a way to earn money, call me. I won't treat you badly. I'll let you be the middleman and earn some money. Mu Qingchen was speechless. The latest chapter is not finished yet. Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-826/1076375566. HTML Genius memorized the website's address. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 662. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more exciting content. The novel was updated more quickly. Millions of novels were free to read. There were all kinds of novels that couldn't be found on the internet. After the last class in the morning, Gu Jiao went to have lunch with Gu Shaoshun. Mu Qingchen thought for a while and stopped her. Are you really short of money? Gu Jiao looked at him. He opened his mouth and said, there is a job that is a little hard. If you want it, I can take you there after school. Okay. Gu Jiao agreed. Mu Qingchen frowned and looked at her. Why don't you ask what the job is? Gu Jiao said without hesitation, what kind of inhumane job can a young master like you get? Mu Qingchen was speechless. After school, Gu Jiao told Gu Shaoshun to go home first. She had something to do. Sister, do you want me to go with you? Gu Xiaoshun asked in a low voice. No need. Gu Jiao said. She could work alone. Gu Xiaoshun always listened to her. Hearing this, he scratched his head and said, Oh, then I'll go first. Come back early. After seeing Gu Xiaoshun off, Gu Jiao turned right and walked a dozen steps to get into Mu Qingchen's carriage. She sat down on the side seat. Mu Qingchen must have told the driver, so the coachman started the carriage without saying anything. It was still early and the carriage was stuffy. Gu Jiao opened the windows slightly. The bright sky shone in, and everything in the carriage was clearly visible. Mu Qingchen turned his eyes and caught a glimpse of the ice-blue hairband on her head. This kind of ice-blue silk material was very precious and couldn't be bought in the outer city. Of course, it could be bought in the inner city, but Gu Jiao didn't have the habit of dressing luxuriously. Why are you looking at me? Gu Jiao noticed that he was looking at her. The hairband is good. Mu Qingchen looked away. Gu Jiao touched the hairband Xiao Hang gave her and shook her head in her heart. Well, I think it's good too. Mu Qingchen couldn't help but look at her again. She couldn't hide the happiness in her eyes. He didn't know whether it was because of the hairband that she obviously didn't buy herself or because she was going to make money. Now that you've become famous, there will be a lot of people who want to know you. Don't get too close to everyone. Gu Jiao, Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao originally thought that he would bring her into the inner city to do something. Unexpectedly, the carriage turned and headed in the other direction of the outer city. After traveling for about 10 miles to the east, the carriage arrived at a majestic mansion. There were a few guards standing guard at the entrance of the mansion. The coachman flashed his token and the guards walked over. Mu Qingchen lifted the curtain and said to the guard, It's me. The guards hurriedly cupped their hands and allowed the carriage to pass. Mu Qingchen's carriage drove into the mansion. Young master, we're here. Mu Qingchen got out of the carriage. Gu Jiao jumped out of the carriage as well. Wow! Gu Jiao couldn't help but exclaim when she saw the scenery in front of her. Was he really in the mansion? What a bigs, Mu Qingchen thought. There was an orchard to the east of a forest to the south, and a long path to the west. There was a long and winding path to the west, and there was a lotus pond to the north. The lotus leaves in the pond were as green as jade, and there were white and pink lotus flowers. The scenery was so beautiful. Where are we? Gu Jiao Mu asked. Yan Shanjuan's mansion. Mu Qingchen said. Yan Shanjun. Gu Jiao Mu had never heard of it. Mu Qingchen didn't explain too much. At this moment, a pretty maid walked over and greeted Mu Qingchen with a smile. Young Master Qingchen. Mu Qingchen nodded slightly. Is your young master here? Yes, the maid said with a smile. I'll take you there. This is... She looked at Gu Jiao Mu. Gu Jiao Mu Qingchen was wearing the Chenqiong Academy uniform. She looked a little young, and the birthmark on the left side of her face was hard to miss. Mu Qingchen introduced her calmly. She's my classmate. Her surname is Xiao. Young Master Xiao. The maid greeted him politely. Gu Jiao Mu nodded. This way, please. The maid didn't ask why Mu Qingchen brought his classmate here. She led them to the orchard on the other side of the field. They met many servants along the way, and all of them knew Mu Qingchen. After entering the orchard, Gu Jiao Mu heard a few anxious girls' voices. Princess. You can't climb the tree. Princess, come down. Princess. We won't be able to explain to our young master if you do this. Gu Jiao Mu was wondering who the princess they were talking about was. She wondered if it was a girl about the same age as Su Shui. Then, she saw a little girl on a peach tree. The little girl climbed up a tall branch. The servants didn't dare to climb up because the branch was very thin. They would break the branch if they climbed up. Princess. Mu Qingchen said softly. The little girl looked over and her big eyes lit up. Mu Qingchen. Oh, she actually called him by his name. Mu Qingchen walked over. The little girl opened her arms and jumped down without hesitation. The maid screamed in fear. Mu Qingchen caught her easily and put her on the ground. The little princess raised her head and asked seriously, "Why didn't you come to see me for so long? Are you lazy and not teaching me?" Her voice was sweet. Mu Qingchen smiled and said, "I've been too busy these days. I came here as soon as I finished my work." The little princess nodded. "Well, I heard that you participated in the archery competition. Did you win?" Mu Qingchen replied seriously, "Thanks to the princess, I won 2 matches." "Then you're good," the little princess said. Then she turned her head and saw Gu Jiao walking over. Who are you?" Mu Qingchen introduced. "He's the teacher I chose for you. He's good at riding." The little princess tilted her head and looked at Gu Jiao. Then, she turned to Mu Qingchen and asked, "Is he better than you?" Mu Qingchen nodded with a smile. "Yes, he's better than me. He even tamed the wild horse king of our academy. He also participated in the archery competition." Mu Qingchen was a gentleman who didn't smile much. When he smiled, he looked so gentle that it made people feel warm. The maids couldn't help staring at him. Master Qingchen only showed such a gentle side to the little princess. He was so charming. The little princess folded her arms and said mischievously, "Actually, you don't want to teach me, so you found someone to teach me, right?" Mu Qingchen calmly took off a leaf from her head and said, "Why don't you try it?" The little princess looked at Gu Jiao again and looked up and down at Gu Jiao. She was probably curious about the thing on her face, so she asked, "Why is there a flower on your face?" She was younger than little Jing Kong, but she didn't say the word fold. "Did you draw it?" Gu Jiao asked. The young commandery princess said in a very dignified manner, "Draw one for me as well." The maids chuckled. Mu Qingchen introduced Gu Jiao to the job of teaching the little princess to ride. Mu Qingchen was not good at teaching children. Yesterday, he saw that Gu Jiao got along well with Su Shui's roommate's younger brother. He thought that Gu Jiao had a talent for communicating with children. "That's it?" Gu Jiao asked. Mu Qingchen said, "The little princess has asthma. You know medicine, so there's no one more suitable than you." "Oh." Gu Jiao understood. "Do you come every day or?" Mu Qingchen shook his head. "No, you can come every 3 to 5 days. You can decide how long you want to practice according to the little princess's physical condition. 50 taels a month." Gu Jiao was very satisfied with the work intensity and the pay. Because it was the first day, Mu Qingchen was worried about whether Gu Jiao was qualified for the job, so he stayed with Gu Jiao. The two went to the stable to accompany the little princess to choose a horse. The little princess had her own stable. The stable was full of docile foals. The little princess asked Gu Jiao to choose one. Gu Jiao picked a white one. "You're wearing a white fairy dress today. It matches well." It was unknown if the word fairy had pleased the young princess, but she raised her chin and said, "That's right, I think so too." The servant in the stable brought the little princess's special saddle. Gu Jiao fastened the saddle and carried the little princess up. Before the little princess sat down, she threw herself at Gu Jiao. "Wait, wait, wait. I'm scared." Gu Jiao hummed and said, "What's there to be afraid of? It's very docile. You won't fall down as long as you hold on to the reins." The little princess clung to Gu Jiao's neck with her 2 small arms. She did not dare to look back. "I'm scared." She refused to get on the horse. Mu Qingchen was not surprised. He had taught the little princess several times, but she failed every time. Gu Jiao paused and asked the little princess who was trembling in her arms, "Since you're scared, why do you still want to learn? Children don't need to ride horses." The little princess pretended to be fierce and said, "I just want to learn." Gu Jiao looked at Mu Qingchen. Mu Qingchen raised his eyebrows helplessly, indicating that he could do nothing. Gu Jiao thought for a moment and said, "Then, can you watch me ride first?" "Okay." The little princess got down from Gu Jiao's arms. Gu Jiao asked the servant in the stable for a mature horse. She rode the horse around the grassland at a moderate speed so that it would not scare children. Sure enough, her valiant appearance on horseback made the young royal princess restless. Mu Qingchen winked at the servant. The servant brought the white pony over. Mu Qingchen carried the little princess up. Little princess, try it. No, no, no. The little princess plunged into Mu Qingchen's arms. Gu Jiao rode the horse over and directly grabbed the little princess onto the horse. Ouch! The little princess lay on the saddle and struggled. The strong wind blew, causing her cheeks to puff up. All the children in the family were tired, including Gu Xiaobao, who was only a few months old. Gu Jiao lacked experience with delicate little girls. In the end, she succeeded in making the little princess cry. After coming out of the grassland, Gu Jiao got into Mu Qingchen's carriage. The little princess cried until she was out of breath. Mu Qingchen went to comfort her. About 15 minutes later, Mu Qingchen returned to the carriage. Gu Jiao wondered if she had failed the interview. She did not expect the little princess to cry so easily. What a waste of your kindness. Next time. The little princess asked when you will come next time. Gu Jiao was stunned. Mu Qingchen glanced at her. You don't want to come? Gu Jiao said, No, I just find it strange. She is crying so hard. Why does she still want me to come? Mu Qingchen smiled faintly. The little princess said that you are the only one who dares to put her on the horse. No one else dares to. She will never learn how to ride a horse with anyone else. Maybe she can do it with you. Well, she was still a stubborn little crybaby. Gu Jiao tilted her head and looked at Mu Qingchen. Mu Qingchen was puzzled by Gu Jiao's look. What's wrong? Gu Jiao asked, Who is the little princess to you? Mu Qingchen said, Her father, Yan Shanjun, is a close friend of Duke An. He lived in Duke An's manor when he was young. He taught me how to play chess. He also taught Yinin how to play chess. Yinin? Gu Jiao was stunned. Your childhood playmate? Yes. Mu Qingchen nodded. This was the first time Mu Qingchen mentioned the name of his childhood playmate. Gu Jiao felt that the name was a little familiar. She seemed to have heard it somewhere. Yan Shanjun is not in the mansion these days. He has gone on a long journey, Mu Qingchen said as if he was explaining why he didn't take her to visit Yan Shanjun. Gu Jiao said, Oh. She didn't care about that. She was thinking about that name. Yinin. She couldn't get the name out of her mind. The carriage went out of the mansion. Young master, where are we going now? Back to the academy? The coachman asked. Mu Qingchen looked at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao said, Let's go back to the academy. She still refused to tell him the address. Mu Qingchen didn't say anything. The carriage went all the way back to the Chenqiong Academy. They came from the southern gate of the city, so they had to pass by there on their way back. It was hot, so Gu Jiao kept the window open. As they approached the city gate, a group of soldiers and horses suddenly appeared on the official road. Leading the group were several officials riding on fine horses. Behind them were a group of able-bodied men in ragged clothes, their hands tied with ropes. Gu Jiao had never been curious about the affairs of the government. She just glanced at them casually, but she didn't expect to see a familiar figure. She pushed the half-open window to the maximum. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated more quickly. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels that you can't find on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/8964286/1076374778. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com Chapter 663. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels can be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. Gu Jiao suspected that she was mistaken. How could she see Gu Chengfeng here? Mu Qingchen, who was resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and looked at Gu Jiao in confusion. However, the group of people had turned a corner and went in the opposite direction. Mu Qingchen asked, "What are you looking at?" Gu Jiao sat back in her seat. "I seem to see someone I know." Mu Qingchen looked at the group of people outside the window and looked at Gu Jiao deeply. "Do you know the Han family or those slaves?" Gu Jiao was slightly stunned. "Slaves?" Mu Qingchen looked at her and said, "Are you mistaken?" Gu Jiao closed the window. "Maybe I'm mistaken. Gu Chengfeng couldn't have come to the Yan Kingdom, let alone become a slave. There was a mineral vein at the foot of the Dongshan Ridge outside the city of Chengdu, and the Han family was responsible for mining it. Some days ago, there was an accident in the mine and a group of slaves died. The Han family bought a new group of slaves without stopping. Most of these slaves were servants who had been marked as slaves. Some of them were poor people in the Yan Kingdom, some were prisoners who had been severely punished, and some were strong men from the black market. The team stopped at the checkpoint of the mine. The guard looked at the corvée laborers tied up with ropes and clicked his tongue in disdain. These corvée laborers don't look very useful. There aren't many of them who are strong. An officer riding on a horse said, "The market is not good now. It's good to have them. Let's make do with them." The guard said, "Okay, go to work. We're waiting." The officer smiled. "It's so late. Aren't you afraid that something will happen again?" The guard smiled helplessly. "What can I do? It's my superior's order." His mouth said that there was nothing he could do, but his expression was clearly indifferent. Well, they were just a group of lowly slaves. Who would care about their lives? The group of people entered the mine. Several officials found an open space for them to rest. It wasn't that he sympathized with them, but they were already very tired after such a long journey. They needed to rest and eat something to recover their strength. Everyone sat down on the ground. Gu Chengfeng sat at the back, looking inconspicuous. He had been eating and sleeping in the open all this time. He was no longer the young master of an aristocratic family in Zhao country. Not long after, some people brought over the porridge and steamed buns. The corvée laborers all stood up. "Stand properly. Stand properly. Don't move." The official in charge of distributing food lashed out with a whip, and everyone became obedient. Each person had a bowl of porridge and 2 steamed buns. When it was Gu Chengfeng's turn, there was only half a bun left. Gu Chengfeng didn't say anything. He took the bowl of porridge and the hard steamed buns and ate them in big bites. After being hungry a few times, he understood that if he didn't eat fast enough, he would be hungry until the next meal. Sure enough, as soon as he wolfed down half of the steamed bun in his hand, the officer urged them to enter the mine. "Sir, can you give me some more food? I don't have enough to eat. I don't have the strength to work." A corvée laborer over 50 years old cupped his hands and begged the officer. The officer whipped him, causing him to roll on the ground. "Now you have strength." He fell in front of Gu Chengfeng. If it was in the past, Gu Chengfeng would have helped him up. But now, Gu Chengfeng didn't do anything. He just silently walked around him and followed the group. The group entered the mine. Some ores were on the surface and could be directly mined. Some ores were underground and needed to be dug into blind shafts. They had been sent to dig a well. There were already a few old corvée laborers digging. "Go get a shovel yourselves," the officer shouted. Everyone hurriedly walked over and picked up a shovel from the ground. They copied the old corvée laborers and started digging. Gu Chengfeng also picked up a shovel and started digging like a professional. They dug until the middle of the night. When everyone was exhausted and had no strength left, they were brought back to a large shared room to rest. Dozens of people were squeezed into one room. The smell was so bad that it was suffocating. Gu Chengfeng lay on a wooden board in the corner. On one side was a corvée laborer and on the other side was a grey mud wall. Perhaps they were tired. Almost everyone fell asleep as soon as they lay down. After the officer finished checking the room, he locked the door and then turned to leave. In the darkness, Gu Chengfeng slowly opened his eyes. He wasn't here to be a corvée laborer. Since he had already arrived at Shangdu, he didn't need to continue mingling with a group of slaves. He had to think of a way to leave. As he thought about it, he turned over and inadvertently pressed down on the wound on the outside of his right leg. He gasped in shock. Fuck. The mark of a slave was really painful. He couldn't help but swear. After returning to the house, Gu Jiao told her that she was the young princess's riding teacher. After all, she would be visiting often in the future. It was better to tell her family clearly. Madame Nan gave Gu Jiao a bowl of corn rib soup. Which young princess? Is there a princess in the outer city? She knew that a princess was someone with status. Usually, she lived in the inner city. Yen Shanjuan's daughter. Gu Jiao said. Yen Shanjun. Madame Nan felt that this title was familiar. But she had left Yen Kingdom for too many years. She couldn't remember it. The Emperor's younger brother. Old Mr. Meng said casually. Madame Nan was enlightened. She smiled and said, "Ah, yes, the Emperor's younger brother. No wonder it sounded familiar." Gu Jiao was surprised. The Emperor's younger brother has such a young child? She remembered that Commandery Prince Ming was the Crown Prince's legitimate son. He was the Emperor's grandson. Commandery Prince Ming looked about the same age as Xiao Heng. The Emperor was at least the same age as the old Duke. Madame Nan said thoughtfully, "I don't know." She didn't deliberately inquire about the royal family. Her understanding of the royal family was limited. Old Mr. Meng drank a mouthful of soup and said calmly, "Yen Shanjun is the Empress Dowager's posthumous son. He is almost 30 years younger than the Emperor." Now Gu Jiao understood. Yen Shanjun was the king's youngest brother. His daughter was of the same generation as the crown prince. Didn't that mean that even Commandery Prince Ming had to greet the young Commandery Princess politely when he saw her? Gu Jiao suddenly smiled. This little guy's seniority is quite high. Everyone looked at her with a strange expression. After saying so much, your focus was only on seniority? That was Yen Shanjuan's daughter, the young princess of the royal family. It was said that being with the emperor was like being with a tiger, not to mention the Yen kingdom's royal family. Madame Nan was somewhat worried. Old Mr. Meng seemed to be knowledgeable. She asked old Mr. Meng, "Is this Yen Shanjun easy to get along with?" If his temper was bad, he would rather give up this job. "Yen Shanjun is fine," old Mr. Meng said and glanced at Gu Jiao. "You didn't make the young princess cry, did you?" Gu Jiao said seriously, "No, how could I make her cry?" Old Mr. Meng nodded. "That's good. The emperor dotes on this young princess very much. Those who made her cry were all killed by the emperor." Gu Jiao was speechless. Early the next morning, Gu Jiao practiced the red tasseled spear as usual. She didn't know if it was because she saw Gu Chengfeng, but Gu Jiao thought of the whip that she had neglected for many days. She also took it out and practiced for a while. After that, Gu Jiao and Gu Shaoshun went to the academy. When Gu Jiao arrived at the gate of the academy, she was stopped by a luxurious carriage. A young man in luxurious clothes came out of the carriage. It was Han Che. Han Che looked at Gu Jiao with a faint smile. He turned and opened the curtain to let another man in luxurious clothes come out of the carriage. Gu Jiao had seen him before. He was Prince Ming, who had come to the academy to look for Mu Qingchen. This Prince Ming was very active. He was very close to the young masters of the aristocratic families. He didn't care if these young masters had disagreements with each other. Gu Jiao thought that he was here to look for Mu Qingchen again. She turned around and planned to go around the carriage to enter the academy. Unexpectedly, Han Che stopped her. Hey, Xiao Lulang. Stop right there. Gu Jiao didn't stop. Han Che sucked in a cold breath. Prince Ming's bodyguards quickly stepped forward and blocked Gu Jiao's way. Gu Jiao frowned impatiently. You go in first, she said to Gu Xiaoshun. Gu Xiaoshun wanted to stay, but she thought of something and her eyes flashed. Okay, I'll go in first. The bodyguards didn't stop Gu Xiaoshun. Gu Jiao turned around and looked at the two of them. What's the matter? Her unruly and arrogant attitude made Prince Ming frown slightly. However, Han Che was very satisfied with this result. What he wanted was for Xiao Lu to anger Commandery Prince Ming. Prince Ming didn't seem to want to reveal his identity. He quickly hid his displeasure and said to Gu Jiao in a pleasant manner, I'm a friend of Mu Qingchen. I came to the academy last time. So? Gu Jiao looked at him indifferently. She was just short of saying that it was none of her business. Prince Ming was a direct descendant of the royal family. He had grown up with a silver spoon in his mouth and had never been disrespected by anyone. However, when he thought that Gu Jiao didn't know his identity, he felt relieved. He didn't want to give Han Che face, but he didn't want to give himself face. Thinking of this, Prince Ming smiled gently again. I don't mean anything else. You are Qingchen's classmate, and I am Qingchen's friend. I just want to get to know you. Han Che pursed his lips. Didn't he tell Prince Ming that Xiao Lulang was just a commoner? Why was he being so polite to him? Prince Ming wasn't being polite to Xiao Lulang, but to Mu Qingchen. Mu Qingchen occupied 3 of the top 10 families in Shangdu. If he could win over Mu Qingchen, it would be equivalent to winning over the Su family, the Mu family, and the Wang family. I'm not interested, Gu Jiao said. Han Che said coldly, Hey, do you know who you are talking to? Don't be ungrateful. You want to do this the hard way. Hey, young Master Han, please don't be angry. Let's talk nicely. Since Han Che was playing the good cop, he might as well play the bad cop. He smiled and said to Gu Jiao, I was caught up with something at the last minute during the archery competition, so I couldn't see it with my own eyes. I heard that you have a very powerful horse. Can I have a look? No. Gu Jiao refused immediately. Prince Ming almost choked on his own blood. Did she think that it wouldn't work if she didn't reveal her identity? Han Che added oil to the fire and mocked, Xiao Lulang, this young master beside me just wants to see your horse. Even if he wants your horse, you have to give it to him. Do you understand? Gu Jiao looked at the two indifferently. So, you are here to steal my horse? Prince Ming frowned. He was just here to take a look, but he really wanted to steal it. Since he was young, no one had dared to disobey him. This person was too ignorant. Even if he didn't reveal his identity, his royal aura was enough to intimidate him. Inside the gate of the book, the students of the academy who had caught a glimpse of this scene exclaimed that they were doomed. That person was the Crown Prince's legitimate son. Ever since the Crown Princess was dethroned, he had become the Crown Prince's eldest grandson. He wanted to steal Liulong's horse. Even if Gu Xiaoshun called young Master Qingchen, there was nothing he could do. What's going on? Why are you all crowding here? Don't you need to go to class? President Sun walked over and asked. The students turned around. One of them whispered, President, Prince Ming is here. He wants to steal Liulong's horse. What? President Sun's expression changed. He looked outside and saw Prince Ming and Han Che opposite Gu Jiao. Prince Ming didn't even come to watch the competition yesterday. How did he know about Liulong's horse? It was most likely that Han Che wanted Liulong's horse but couldn't do it himself. After all, he couldn't defeat Mu Qingchen, so he lured Prince Ming here. There was nothing Prince Ming couldn't get if he wanted it. It was over. Liulong's horse couldn't be saved. How is this stealing? Prince Ming smiled faintly. Although he said that he wouldn't steal it, the brocade guard beside him had already placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. Just as Prince Ming was about to order his men to draw their swords, a horse carriage sped over and stopped beside Gu Jiao. The curtains of the horse carriage were lifted and a delicate little girl jumped out. "What are you doing?" she asked in a childish voice. Commandery Prince Ming was shocked. The little princess, who was not even 5 years old, jumped out of the horse carriage and walked up to Prince Ming. She raised a tender face and asked sternly, "Why aren't you greeting us?" How embarrassing. They were all humans. Prince Ming frowned and clasped his hands together. He braced himself and bowed. "Little aunt." The little princess looked at him and then at Gu Jiao. "What were you doing just now?" Prince Ming thought about how the little girl loved to complain in front of the monarch. He gave the god a look and the god put down his sword. Prince Ming smiled. "Nothing. I just came here to make a friend." "Is that so?" the little princess asked Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao crossed her arms. "No. He wanted to steal my horse." Prince Ming was speechless. The little princess's face fell. "Carry me." Her personal maid immediately carried the expressionless young commandery princess up. The little princess stretched out her chubby hand and slapped Prince Ming on the head. She said fiercely, "You brat! How dare you bully my teacher?" Digression. It was time for the fourth watch of the night. Thank you for your concern. I feel much better now. The latest chapter of the book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/82642826810. HTML Genius memorized the website's address. www.zhbqg.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 664. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more interesting content. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that you can't find online are all available here. The slap was not very harmful, but it was extremely insulting. With so many people watching, Commandery Prince Ming lost all his dignity. Not to mention that he didn't reveal his identity, other than Xiao Lu Lang, that poor countryman with poor eyesight, who couldn't recognize the Crown Prince Mansion's brocade guard. He was puzzled. How did this young fellow become his little fellow's teacher? What was going on? Wait. The angry Prince Ming suddenly thought of an important point. He looked angrily at the young princess in front of him and pointed at Gu Jiao. He gritted his teeth and said, "Why didn't you believe me when I said I was here to make friends? Why did you believe her when she said I was here to steal your horse? What you did was unfair." The young princess choked. She suddenly felt a little guilty. She did seem to be unfair just now. However, the young princess also wanted to save her face. She would never admit her mistake. She rolled her eyes and said sternly, "Isn't that because you're always lying? You have a bad record and your words are not trustworthy. You are not trustworthy. You." Prince Ming was so angry that he almost died of anger. Not only did she hit him in front of everyone, she even exposed his shortcomings. The young princess found reasonable evidence to support herself and suddenly became bold and confident. "Are you still not going to admit it? Last year, you secretly went cockfighting and were caught by the Crown Prince's cousin. This year, you cheated and asked someone to write an essay for you. Last month, you even lied to the emperor. Do you think I'm a child and don't remember?" He was finished. He was completely finished. He was exposed by the little fellow. Actually, it was a small matter. Cockfighting was just for fun. He cheated because he was too lazy to do his homework. It was not that he did not know how to do it. As for lying, how could it be called lying? He said he missed the emperor day and night. Was there anything wrong with that? How could there be such an infuriating child in this world? Prince Ming could not be calculative with the young princess. Not only could he not be calculative, but he also had to coax her and give in to her. Otherwise, she would go to the emperor and complain about him. After all, she loved to complain. Could he go and complain about it? Of course, it was possible, but wouldn't it be embarrassing? How old was the young princess? How old was he? Little royal princess did not know that royal Prince Ming was giving in to her because she was young. She always thought that it was because of her seniority and that he could not be unfilial. Because of the sudden appearance of the young princess, Commander Prince Ming had no choice but to leave. Before he left, the young princess even bowed to him. Dean Sen and all the students who were secretly watching the show heaved a sigh of relief. The young princess came at the right time. Otherwise, who would be able to deal with Commander Prince Ming? Speaking of which, the young princess had said that she would not allow Royal Prince Ming to bully her teacher. Which teacher was she talking about? Xiao Lulang? At this moment, Mu Qingchen was called over by Gu Shaoshun in a hurry. However, he found that Commander Prince Ming and Han Che had already left. All his plans were in vain. Princess, why are you here? Mu Qingchen greeted the young princess. Put me down. The young princess said. The servant girl put the young princess down. In fact, the young princess was not often carried by others. That would make her seem very small. She always remembered that she was an elder. The young princess pointed at Gu Jiao and said to Mu Qingchen, I'm here to look for her. Gu Jiao asked curiously, Why are you looking for me? To ride a horse. The young princess said, Yesterday, when I asked you what time you would be coming over, you did not give me a definite answer. Oh, so she still had to reply. She thought that she could just go over after school. Gu Jiao reflected seriously, It's my fault. I'll be more careful next time. She did not have the burden of an adult in front of a child. The young princess was very satisfied with her attitude. She hated it when people talked nonsense and made up all kinds of excuses to fool her like she was a child. For example, her unfilial nephew, Royal Prince Ming. The young princess looked at Gu Jiao and said, Then you can tell me now. Gu Jiao said, After school today, I'll go over to look for you. After school ends at 5 p.m., I'll be there for half an hour. The young princess nodded, Okay, it's a deal. Then she bid farewell to Gu Jiao and Mu Qingchen and went back in the carriage. Gu Jiao was a little confused. She came all the way here just to ask about the time of school. She did not understand the world of the royal little boy. On the other hand, in the mine surrounded by mountains, Gu Chengfeng and the others dug the well for the whole day. The weather was hot and some of the corvée laborers collapsed on the ground from heatstroke. Gu Chengfeng also suffered from heatstroke. He felt nauseous and weak, but he was not paralyzed. His sleeves were rolled up high, revealing his tanned skin. Every time he chiseled, the firm but not overly exaggerated muscles on his arms could be seen. Finally, it was dusk. The corvée laborers were almost paralyzed with exhaustion. Gu Chengfeng was so tired that he sat on a rock and panted with sweat all over his back. Such days had started since he entered the Yen kingdom. If he was not in the mine, he was in other places. In short, he did not have a single day of peace. During the war, he had experienced the pain of life and death, but he had never experienced the pain of trampling on his dignity. His hands had long been rubbed with thick calluses. Today, even the calluses were broken and painful blood blisters grew on his hands. He did not even frown. He untied an old water bag from his waist and drank a mouthful of water mixed with sand. It's time to eat. An officer shouted. Although they were tired, they still had to eat. Everyone dragged their tired bodies and staggered to the shelter where they received their meals. Gu Chengfeng was not the last one this time. He took the first place and got a bowl of thick porridge and 2 big cornmeal steamed buns. Then he found an empty space and sat down, wolfing down the food. Judging from the weather, it was going to rain tonight. Because of this, they did not need to continue digging the well tonight. They were afraid that they would be buried in the well. After the meal, everyone was escorted back to the shared bunk and was not allowed to enter or leave without permission. The weather was extremely hot. The shared bunk was full of 20 to 30 people. It was like a steamer, and the unpleasant smell kept fermenting in the room. Gu Chengfeng laid on the innermost wooden board. His expression did not change at all. It was as if he was used to this smell. About an hour later, dark clouds covered the sky, and the sky darkened all of a sudden. Not long after, the sky began to flash with lightning and thunder. Gu Chengfeng understood that the opportunity to escape had come. After the last person in the shared bunk fell asleep, Gu Chengfeng got off the bed and quietly walked to the door. The door was locked from the outside. It was impossible to pry it open. He did not have any tools and could only use his internal force to open it. But he could not alert the patrolling guards. He could only wait for the next thunder. A white flash of lightning flashed and the ants on the ground were clearly illuminated. Now was the time. With a loud bang, Gu Chengfeng broke the bronze lock with a ka-ka sound. He opened the door and walked out. He wrapped the broken lock with his hair and pretended to lock it back. The thunder gradually stopped and heavy rain poured down. Gu Chengfeng ran into the heavy rain without looking back. The heavy rain could cover his tracks and also hide the presence of the guards. He needed to be more careful than usual. He did not want to bump into them and be caught on the spot. Aya, why is it raining so suddenly? My clothes are all wet. I don't know if we can start work tomorrow. What about the officials? They don't want us to dig a well anyway. Gu Chengfeng hid behind a large tree and allowed the two patrolling guards to pass by him in a hurry not far away. When the two walked far away, he continued to run towards the checkpoint. There were also guards at the checkpoint. He had observed that this was the only exit. The other places were filled with poisonous grass and traps. He waited in the rain for a while. The guards seemed to be tired and started to nap. Gu Chengfeng silently flashed in front of him. It would be a lie to say that he was not nervous. His heart was in his throat. Fortunately, he was not discovered and he successfully left the mine. Then, he ran in the direction he came from. His clothes were soaked in the heavy rain. He did not dare to stop for a moment. He was afraid that the group of people would catch up. He did not know how long he ran. He ran until his legs almost did not belong to him. He came to a secluded official road. He held onto a tree by the side of the road and gasped for breath. Suddenly, the sound of horse hooves came from afar. There is only one official road here. He must have gone this way. It was the officials of the mine. They found out that he had escaped so quickly. Gu Chengfeng gritted his teeth and looked up at the branches above his head. He jumped onto the branches. Fortunately, there was no thunder now. Otherwise, even if he was not caught and beaten to death, he would have been struck to death by lightning. Go! The group of people ran under the big tree. Hearing the sound of horse hooves getting farther and farther away, Gu Chengfeng leaned against the tree trunk and panted. Only after he sat down did he feel the pain in his leg. The place where the slave mark was branded with a soldering iron had not healed. Now that it was in the rain, it hurt like a drill. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/826/1076191141. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 665. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. More novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. In Tianqiong Academy, the weather was not good when school was about to end. The classroom was stuffy and sticky, and everyone felt out of breath. The doors and windows were wide open, but it was still difficult for a cool breeze to blow in. The students who came here to study were not from poor families. Everyone was quite fastidious and didn't smell too bad. Gu Jiao sat in the last row. Mu Qingchen was on her left, and the back door was on her right. She could breathe enough fresh air from her seat. Zhou Tong, who was in the front row, was sleepy. First, the weather was stuffy. Second, he stayed up late to paint again. In the lecture, Teacher Gao was explaining the Pythagorean theorem, which was the Pythagorean theorem that Gu Jiao had learned in her previous life. Zhou Tong. Teacher Gao suddenly called out his name. Zhou Tong trembled and stood up with a confused expression. Teacher Gao said lightly, "You can answer this question." "What's the answer?" Zhou Tong swallowed. What kind of question was this? What did he mean by the answer? 80, Gu Jiao whispered expressionlessly. Mu Qingchen looked at Gu Jiao strangely. Zhou Tong straightened his back and said loudly, 80. Teacher Gao looked at Zhou Tong suspiciously and then looked behind Zhou Tong. There were only two people behind Zhou Tong, Mu Qingchen and Xiao Lulang. Mu Qingchen would not tell the answer, and Xiao Lulang never listened in class. He always copied his homework. "Okay," Teacher Gao answered and asked Zhou Tong to sit down. Zhou Tong was relieved and raised his sleeve to wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. After class, Mu Qingchen picked up the questions left by Teacher Gao and pointed to one question. He asked Gu Jiao, "What's the answer?" "I don't know," Gu Jiao said without hesitation. "What about this question?" Mu Qingchen changed the question. "I don't know," Gu Jiao said. Mu Qingchen frowned and looked at her. "Why do you know when Zhou Tong asks you?" "Zhou Tong doesn't know how to do it, and you don't know how to do it either?" Gu Jiao said casually, "I don't know how to do it. I just guessed it." Not long after, Gu Shaoshun ran over to Gu Jiao. "Lu Lang, let's go back." Gu Jiao began to pack her bag. She looked indifferent, as if she had no interest in studying. Mu Qingchen looked at her deeply and asked, "Have you ever thought about taking the imperial examinations?" "I'm not from the Yen Kingdom," Gu Jiao said. Mu Qingchen said, "Any student of the academy can take part in the imperial examination." The Yen Kingdom was a superior country that paid great attention to talents. This could be seen from the fact that they had opened underground martial arts arenas in various countries to select martial arts geniuses. Although the imperial examinations mostly prioritized the examinees from their own country, if the examinees were truly outstanding, they would still be accepted as exceptions. There was no lack of such precedents over the years. If he passed the examination, a mere inner-city talisman would be nothing. It was not impossible for him to become a permanent resident of the Yen Kingdom. "Don't you want to stay in the Yen Kingdom?" Mu Qingchen asked. "Is there even one out of 1,000 examinees who can stay?" Gu Jiao asked in reply. It was difficult. The imperial examination of the Yen Kingdom was the most difficult one among the 6 countries. It not only covered a wide range of subjects, but also had the largest number of examinees. 80% of the examinees were from their own country, and the remaining 20% were excellent students from the other 5 countries. The examinees from their own country had extra points, and so did the examinees from the Liang Kingdom and the Jin State. Only the examinees from the lower country had the cruelest screening system. Therefore, it was not difficult for Gu Jiao to stand out from the other examinees. Mu Qingchen said, "I think you can give it a try." Gu Jiao waved her hand and said, "Forget it." She would have to kneel if she had to write the 8-legged essay. It would be better if Xiao Heng did it. How about the military examination? Mu Qingchen saw that she was not interested in the literary examination, so he changed the topic. Gu Jiao was confused. "Why are you suddenly so interested in my examination?" Mu Qingchen emphasized again, "If you pass the examination, you can stay in the Yen Kingdom." Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows and looked at him. Why should I stay in the Yen Kingdom? Or do you want me to stay in the Yen Kingdom? Mu Qingchen, you don't like me, do you? Mu Qingchen was speechless. He turned his face coldly and said, You are a man. How can I like you? Good. Gu Jiao put the last book in and picked up the bag. Let's go. It's going to rain. Mu Qingchen looked at her back and reminded her. Gu Jiao didn't look back. She just waved her hand to show that she knew. Sister, it seems that it's going to rain. It's getting dark. On the path out of the academy, Gu Shaoshun looked at the dark clouds overhead and said, Are you still going to teach that little princess? Yes. Gu Jiao said. The little guy was too serious. He came to the academy just by asking her a question. She was afraid that if she didn't go, the little guy would come to her house in the rain. Although she couldn't attend the class even if she went, she had to show up so that the little guy wouldn't be disappointed. Then I'll drive you there, Gu Shaoshun said. Since the Horse King was only 2.5 years old, the family seldom let the Horse King pull the carriage. They usually only let it pull the mill. Fortunately, there was a horse at home. Gu Shaoshun took the horse out and put it on the shaft of the carriage. Then he went into the house to get a cloak and a straw raincoat. When he came out, the Horse King was the one pulling the carriage. The horse stood far away in the alley. Gu Shaoshun was stunned and scratched his head. What's going on? Who changed it? Why is it you? He took the shaft of the carriage from the Horse King and pulled it in. Then he took the horse over and put it on. Shaoshun, eat something before you go. Madame Nan called him in the house. I'll bring 2 steamed buns. Gu Shaoshun hurried into the house. When he came out with the steamed buns, the horse pulling the carriage became the Horse King again. No, this. Gu Shaoshun was confused. Sister. Gu Jiao came out and looked at the Horse King. Then she looked at the horse that was frightened by the Horse King and said, Come out. The Horse King didn't move. It meant that it had to go out. Gu Shaoshun said, Sister. Gu Jiao said, Forget it. You go in the house. I'll go by myself. Oh. Gu Shaoshun scratched his head and turned to go into the house. Actually, I'm not heavy. Gu Jiao sat in the carriage. The Horse King whizzed and the carriage went away. The Horse King was very fast. Gu Jiao didn't get wet on the way. It didn't start to rain until they entered the mansion. The rain didn't stop and showed no signs of letting up. Gu Chengfeng hid in a big tree for a while. In the end, he was still found. He didn't know how they found him. He clearly didn't reveal any flaws. There were a total of 4 officials. Their martial arts weren't weak. If it was in the past, it wouldn't be difficult for Gu Chengfeng to deal with them. However, the wound on his leg was too painful. He escaped with minor injuries. The 4 people were seriously injured and fell to the ground. They wouldn't be able to catch up for a while. He was afraid that there would be a second wave of officials chasing after him. It was just a slave. In Gu Qingfeng's view, there was no need to make such a big fuss. However, he also understood that they weren't catching a slave. It was the rules. If everyone followed his example and left, then who would be so dead set on working in the mines? They wanted to catch him and kill him as an example. Gu Chengfeng walked along the official road. He didn't know how long he walked, but he finally came to a bustling street. Chengdu was more prosperous than Zhaodu. Even though it was raining heavily, there were still many vendors on both sides of the street. The pedestrians on the road were hurried and the shops were full. Gu Chengfeng braved the heavy rain and walked on the wet street with one foot in the other. His head hurt and his body was a little cold. Suddenly, he was bumped into by a man walking towards him. The man scolded, "Don't you look where you're going?" Gu Chengfeng ignored him. He didn't understand anyway. On the way to Chengdu, he was locked up with a group of slaves from a lower country. There weren't many opportunities to learn the language of the Yen Kingdom. After walking for a while, he had a splitting headache and his mind was dizzy. According to his previous experience of being sick, he should have a high fever. He found an open space under the eaves and sat down against the cold wall. "Hey! Go away!" The beggar on the side scolded. "This is my territory." Gu Chengfeng glanced at him and was too lazy to move. The beggar pointed at the brand on the outside of his right calf with a stick. "So you're a slave? Then you dare to fight with me for territory?" In the Yen Kingdom, the status of slaves was lower than that of beggars. They were not people, but goods, cats and dogs. Gu Chengfeng didn't understand what he was saying. He was too tired and just wanted to rest for a while. He didn't want to cause trouble. But this person was too noisy and even hit him with a stick. Gu Chengfeng could pinch him to death with his fingers, but he was just an old beggar with a lame leg. Why bother with this kind of person? In the past, Gu Chengfeng would bother. But now he wouldn't. After experiencing more injustice and abuse, this kind of unfriendliness was not worth mentioning at all. Gu Chengfeng couldn't stand the noise and dragged his tired body away. He fell in an alley full of water. People came and went in the alley. No one noticed that a person had fainted here. Finally, a carriage stopped nearby, and a gorgeously dressed middle-aged woman walked into the rouge shop with a young maid in a flirtatious manner. When the two came out of the rouge shop, the little maid inadvertently glanced and saw the figure on the ground. "Mother, there's someone over there." In the Yen Kingdom, only the brothel madam could be called mother. The middle-aged woman stared at her and said, "How many times have I said, we're not a brothel? It's changed to a theater. Call me madam." "Madam." "Yes, madam." The maid hurriedly changed her words, thinking that a theater was similar to a brothel. "Alive or dead?" The middle-aged woman looked at the person in the alley. Gu Chengfeng was lying on the ground. His body was tall, and the bones of his hands were delicate and slender. "Oh, you're quite pretty." The middle-aged woman and the maid walked over with an umbrella. The maid squatted down and touched his neck. "He's still breathing." He seems to be talking." The maid put her ear close to his neck. "What did he say?" the middle-aged woman asked. "He doesn't seem to be from Shangdu. The language of the Yen Kingdom is so strange." The maid listened carefully for a while and finally understood a few words. He said, "Chenqiong Academy." "Madam, is he a student of Chenqiong Academy?" The middle-aged woman glanced at the ragged Gu Chengfeng. "Have you seen a student of Chenqiong Academy dressed like this?" The maid said, "That's true." The middle-aged woman was experienced. She directly lifted Gu Chengfeng's trousers with her foot and saw the brand on it. She smiled coldly. "So he's a slave. Okay, take him back." Gu Chengfeng was carried into the carriage by the maid and the coachman and thrown on the cold floor. The maid lifted the curtain and looked at the approaching carriage. She said curiously, "Madam, look, that carriage doesn't have a coachman." The middle-aged woman wiped the water droplets on her body with a handkerchief. "His horse is obedient." "What's so strange about that?" "It's just that the horse is jumping around happily like a fool." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8264286/1076133323. HTML Genius memorized this website's address. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.